Sleepy town settled for the night, where every lawn is tailored just right, and it's about time that the back porch light comes on. At that house down the street, at that house on Magnolia Street.
Yay.
Yay!
We both made it.
What up, Ski Slope?
What up, bro? Did you get my text?
Yeah, the cat.
I was like, I'm pouring some cold, bruh. How's your loaf? What happened?
The loafs are loafing in 8
loafs
separate
are
loafages. I'm making subs, baby.
Ooh.
Yeah. I still got dough on my fingers. I ran right here.
They call you Kristina Doughy Fingers.
Dude, no joke. Have you ever played Beersby?
No, what the hell's that?
My nickname is Sticky Fingers. It's a yard game,
Uh-huh.
and there's 2 poles in the ground.
Yeah.
And 2 people on each side of the course.
Uh-huh.
There's a can of beer on top of each post, and you're supposed to throw a frisbee and knock the can off. And if the can gets knocked off, you get a prize. If the other team doesn't catch not a prize, a point. If the other team doesn't
A beer.
catch the frisbee,
Do they have to drink?
you have to. So you're supposed to hold a drink in your hand and only use one hand. I'm
Oh.
really fucking good at catching.
Ooh.
So
So you're
sticky
Kristina
fingers.
Sticky Fingers.
Yeah. How are you?
Good.
Talk to
It's gonna be 75 degrees here today. I'm so excited.
Yeah, that's hot.
Yeah, well, it was like 60. The past couple days it's been pretty warm, so I'm like super stoked. And I've been getting home from work and the sun has still been out.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, yes, it's here. I got my flower shirt on.
I saw that. I like that
Yes.
shirt.
Yeah. I'm here. I'm
is
ready
here.
for spring. I'm ready for
I know. Looking at the clock in the evening, I'm like, I'm not really that hungry. I'm like, oh, it's like 7:30. I should probably eat something.
Yeah.
The time is
Yeah.
just bananas.
It is
Yeah.
bananas, but spring is here. Spring has sprung by the time you guys are listening to this episode. The equinox episode just came out. Then we had daffodils, and then this episode.
Rain's
like
gonna
3
be on
weeks.
the 5th.
3 weeks in.
5th
Yeah.
of April.
Anyway, hey witch hey.
Rain. Hey, witch hey. I'm Kristina.
I'm Justina. Welcome to the Practical Magic Fandom podcast. I'm gonna take a sip of coffee because I
That
forgot my
is
lines.
Magnolia Street. I forgot
Yes, this
my
is
lines.
Yeah, we're on Magnolia Street, by the way, if you guys were lost. Just, okay, so this episode is going to be a little bit of a chunky one because Alice talks about rain a lot.
She's simping for rain.
A lot. She is simping for the precipitation. Yes.
Precipitation. Precipitation.
Yeah. Are we going to annoy the fuck out of Avi again with our Rocky Horror
Horror?
sing-along?
We should just do the whole movie for him.
I was going to say start to back.
Front to back.
Front to back, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that was good times. Anyway, yeah, so we're going to get into the rain today. There's a lot to talk about. Alice writes extensively about rain. It's like every other sentence, she's talking about fucking rain. I was like, I had to like make some decisions and like not put some mentions in because some of them were like, okay, that doesn't really like pertain to the plot or whatever, but
Sure.
a lot of it does. So.
Okay.
And then also we have some rain scenes in the movie, so we'll get to that too. Yeah, if you guys have been listening over the past couple weeks, we have been exploring all of the spring motifs throughout the books and the movie. And 2 episodes ago, we unpacked the spring equinox and the month of March, specifically a couple dates in question. Not only the 20th and 21st, because that is in fact the spring equinox, but March 8th, 1998, as we all know, the big factual faux pas in the movie. So if you were interested in all of that jazz, definitely go back a couple weeks and listen to our spring equinox episode, as well as last week's episode, which was all about the daffodils. But this week, we're going to continue with the spring themes and finally tackle all of this rain symbolism throughout the books and the movie. I've been wanting to talk about this for a really long time.
Yeah, you have. I think we should make seasonal playlists for our specific episodes. I mean, especially since we did so much on spring already, and then last season, we had a ton about Samhain and All Hallows Eve, so I think we should put some of those together.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, let's do that. Let's just jump right into the books. This We're going to start with the first one, Practical Magic. Yeah, here we go. So this starts on page 18. The wind picked up and a freezing rain had begun to fall. Still, the girls stood across the street from the drugstore girl's apartment. Mr. Hallowell didn't come out until after 9, and he had a strange expression on his face, as if he didn't quite know where he was. He walked right past his own car, not recognizing it, and not until he was halfway home did he remember he'd parked somewhere, and then it took him nearly an hour to locate the forgotten spot. After that, he appeared every evening at the exact same time. So I don't know if that rain in that scene had anything to do with, I guess, the spell's workings, because that's the spell that Irene wanted to do on her husband, right?
I see. It's like baptizing him, like, oh, you're mine now.
Right. Yeah. So I noticed, like, throughout, the rain has some, like, mystical qualities, and when we go back to Magic Lessons, Maria's story, like the origin story, kind of brings to light that rain is kind of like a special thing in like the Owens ancestry line. Like it's a special thing that Maria had with the rain, and that's kind of got passed down the line, it seems. So on page 34, even the aunts, who could not have loved another child more than Antonia, predicted that Kylie would see what others could not. She tilted her head and listened to the rain before it fell. She pointed to the ceiling moments before a dragonfly appeared in the very same spot. Kylie, very in tune with the weather and the rain, and knows that's gonna happen. It's like she's got ESPN or something.
ESPN, yeah.
Did you remember Mean Girls? Mean Girls, when she's like, my boobs can tell when it's gonna rain or something like that. That's like I had something. ESPN. Yeah.
Wasn't Franny also tied to the weather?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. We'll probably get there, but
yeah.
Okay.
On page 39. So one rainy afternoon, as she was folding a white tablecloth, Sally thought she heard something. The dining room was empty and no one else was home, but there it was, a click, a clatter, like a heartbeat or a clock. She covered her ears with her hands, allowing the tablecloth to tumble to the floor in a heap of clean linen. She refused to believe in superstition. She wouldn't, yet it was claiming her. And that was when she saw something dart beneath Michael's chair, a shadowy creature, too swift and too artful to ever be caught beneath a boot heel. So, yeah, I thought it was interesting because it says one rainy afternoon, Sally heard something. She hears the Death Watch beetle. And in the movie, it was also a rainy afternoon when she was like ripping up the floorboards.
It was, yeah, because the street was all wet. It was early morning. Yeah, it must have rained the night before.
Yeah, so I thought that was an interesting parallel. So page 49. There had been a rainstorm the night that Sally and Jillian were told their parents weren't coming back, and it was their bad fortune that another storm struck when they were in the plane on their way to Massachusetts. Sally was 4, but she remembers the lightning they flew through. She can close her eyes and conjure it with no trouble at all. They were right up in the sky alongside those fierce white lines with no place to hide. Jillian had vomited several times, and when the plane began to land, she started to scream. Sally had to hold her hand over her sister's mouth and promise her gumballs and licorice sticks if she'd only be quiet for a few minutes more. Have you ever been on a plane during a rainstorm?
I was just going to ask you. Terrifying.
It's horrifying.
I hate flying more and more. The more I do it, the more I fucking hate it. But over the lightning storm, very cool. It does seem like the storms are very tied to like the lack of control. You know, Mother Nature on her own, wild bitch, right? And especially a thunderstorm. We're going to talk about like storm magic later on, but for sure the girls being so little and like as a kid, the dark and storms are scary. But now as an adult and being a homeowner, storms are really scary to me now. I'm like, Jesus Christ, don't let that tree come down on my house.
Right. Yeah,
you know?
trees falling. It's a real thing. Yeah, it's scary. We have a lot of trees around here, so it's definitely... Me and Avi were sitting on the couch. It was a really windy night, and I don't remember if it was storming or not, but like it was like the onset of a storm when it just like everything gets really windy and it's like fucking...
Love that weather.
It's cool, but it's also fucking horrifying.
It is, yeah, with trees nearby.
Branch flew into the side of our house, and it sounded like the whole tree fell.
Yeah,
I was
scary.
Convinced that I was going to look out the window and see the whole tree on the house, but it was just a small branch, and it sounded like the whole fucking tree.
That is my biggest fear. And even bigger is like a tree coming down when I'm not home, and there's a big hole in my house, and my animals escape.
Oh my God.
That's my fear.
Yeah, that is a real fear. I came home a couple years ago, and there was a beautiful old, it had like really like crumbly bark. I don't know what kind of tree that was, but it was beautiful. It was like kind of had like weeping willow kind of fronds. It fell during a rainstorm, and they had to like rip the rest of it out of the ground and like get rid of it. But like it was a really pretty tree, but it was like definitely like it was probably a few feet from our property.
Yikes.
So
gosh, you're
good thing
lucky.
they took
Good.
good thing they ripped it out. Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, Sally as a child, we talked a little bit about her in her character analysis episode, but like, yeah, that lack of control when you're up in the plane and nowhere to hide. But like, we even saw, even as a child, she was kind of a control freak. She was kind of like the one kind of making sure everything was good and everything ran smoothly. Even after her parents' death, like she had to be the responsible one because Jillian was a little bit of a banana. So, so she had to have her shit together. Yeah. So I'm sure being in a plane, right, with no control over anything,
nowhere to go, you have to handle the situation. It's not like you can just pass the buck.
She was probably crawling in her skin.
Poor thing.
So on page 95, I want you to butt out, Sally says. Do you understand what I'm saying? Is it getting through to you? It rained last night, and the grass is squishy and filled with worms. Neither of the sisters is wearing shoes, but it's too late to turn back and go into the house. And that's when Jillian brought Jimmy, and they had to bury him, right? Page 103. Mr. Fry is watching the ceiling fan as though it were the most fascinating thing on earth. Antonia assumes this has to do with some sort of scientific study of speed or light, but in fact it's directly related to the experiences of Ben Fry's youth when he went out to San Francisco to visit a friend and stayed for nearly 10 years, during which time he worked for a rather well-known maker of LSD. Such was his introduction to science. It is also the reason why there are times when he has to slow the world down. That's when he stops and stares at things like ceiling fans and raindrops on the window glass. That's when he wonders what on earth he's been doing with his life.
Interesting tie with the LSD.
Right? Yeah.
Right. Because that's what Jimmy was lacing with the Jimson weed.
And didn't Jet have an experience in Rules of Magic with the LSD?
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. Do we need to do an LSD episode?
Yes, we do.
I've never done LSD, so I don't know the
either.
first thing about it, but
if you've done LSD, Magnolia Street Podcast at gmail.com.
Holler at us.
Know your experience. Oh, shit.
All right, page 128. Most of all, Kylie wishes that the man in their backyard would go away. He's out there right now as Antonia heads for the kitchen, humming to fetch herself a snack. Kylie can see him from the window that allows a view of both the front and the side yards. Bad weather never affects him. If anything, he relishes black skies and wind. The rain doesn't bother him in the least. It seems to go right through him, with each drop turning a luminous blue. I was wondering if, I wonder if it was this passage that inspired the rain scenes in the film.
Yeah, I would think so.
And it made the rain symbolism synonymous with Jimmy. Also, in this passage, I wonder what the significance is of the drops going through him turning blue, because as we'll discuss in a little bit, Alice incorporates the usage of colors with her rain symbolism, most notably the green and the red. So I wonder why Jimmy's rain is blue.
I don't know. That's a good question. Especially the rain and water being like a conduit and making that liminal space a little more visible. But the color itself, I don't know why she would choose blue, because that's such a calming color and like soothing. False sense of security, maybe.
I'm surprised it wasn't like a more red rain, because we'll talk about the red rain a little later on. But the red in her books is more associated with like the sinister kind of rain. So I'm surprised Jimmy's rain is not more red. So page 129. The man in the garden is easier to see on rainy days or late at night when he appears out of thin air like a star you've been staring at, but only now see right in the center of the sky. Page 136. They go outside together, so close, each can feel the beat of each other's heart. It rained all night, and now the sticky air is moving in thick mauve-colored waves. The birds aren't singing this morning. It's too dark for that. Also on page 136. It's Candy they're looking for as they wind along the neighborhood, hopping across the squishy lawns and through pools of rainwater that have collected in the gutters. Less than half an hour ago, the newspaper delivery boy joyfully biked right over one of the largest toads, only to discover his bike was headed straight for a tree, which crumpled his front wheels and broke 2 bones in his left ankle and ensured that there'd be no more newspaper deliveries for today.
Jimmy killed him. I mean, he hurt him.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm pretty sure Jimmy sounds like he's responsible for that. So page 138. Out in a neighboring backyard, a woman is hanging white sheets and blue jeans on a laundry line. It won't rain anymore. That's what they're saying on the radio. It will be beautiful and sunny all week long till the end of July. I got what I thought I deserved, Jillian says. Page 139. The day is already turning hot and sultry, with steam rising from the rain puddles as they evaporate. Sally expects interference. She's never had any experience with restless spirits before, but she assumes they want to hang on to the real world. She half expects Jimmy to reach up through the grass and grab her ankle. She wouldn't be surprised if she clipped off the tip of her thumb or was toppled right off the ladder. But her work goes ahead with surprising ease. A man like Jimmy, after all, never does well in this sort of weather. He prefers air conditioning and several six-packs. Page 161. If you sat there in the shade during the heat of August and rubbed the lemon thyme between your fingers, the air turned so yellow you'd swear a swarm of bees had gathered above you, even on days when it had done nothing but rain. Page 197. Walking to the field with Gideon on this clear hot day, Kylie tries to imagine leaving for the aunts, and she can't. Usually she can picture every part of vacation, from packing up to watching rainstorms from the safety of the aunt's porch, but today, when she tries to envision their week in Massachusetts, it all comes up blank. Page 233. The rain is coming down hard now. There's a curtain of it, gray as a blanket of tears. In the place where they buried him, the earth looks spongy. If you reached your hand in, you might just be able to pluck out a bone. You might be dragged down yourself if you weren't careful, deep into the mud, and you'd struggle and you'd try to draw a breath, but it wouldn't do the least bit of good. And I love how in the movie they kind of like encapsulate that spongy earth when they're like smashing the grass with their feet after burying him, right?
Absolutely. We have like blackjack mud out here, so a lot of our yard is there's spots that are lower that we're trying to fill in, and I put a bunch of earth on one of those low spots, and I was pushing it in with my feet, and it was just like sopping in. You know how you when you step on wet sand, how it kind of like does that? I was getting burying Jimmy vibes that day.
Maybe
sure.
There's a Dracula cowboy buried.
Maybe. Oh, I hope so.
There's a sense of foreboding
and malevolence.
So page 233. If it storms as badly as the meteorologists have predicted and the yard should flood, then what? Jillian and Kylie and Antonia are drenched through and through. The umbrella Antonia holds aloft can't protect them. Their hair is plastered to their heads. Their clothes will have to be wrung out in the shower. The ground near the thorn bushes looks indented, as if it were already sinking in upon itself. Or worse, sinking in on Jimmy. If he rises to the surface, like his silver ring, like some horrid wicked fish, it will be over for them. I want my mother, Antonia says in a very small voice. When they finally turn and run for the house, the lawn squishes under their feet. They run even faster. They run as though their nightmares were right behind them on the grass. Once they're inside, Jillian locks the door, then drags a chair over and positions it under the doorknob.
I wanted to look up how long it takes a body to decompose outside.
Yeah.
Obviously incognito mode. But it says, although an exposed human body in optimum conditions can be reduced to bone in about 10 days, a body that's buried 1.2 meters, not quite sure what that is, under the ground retains most of its tissues for a year.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so they'd be waiting a little while. For sure.
Yeah, which explains why the aunts were like, okay, we're gonna speed this process up. We'll bring over the lime. We'll bring over the lime. Yeah, the lime and the lye.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So page 234. We're perfectly fine, she tells the girls. Her hair is a disaster and her breathing is ragged. Mascara is streaked across her pale skin in wavering lines. Still, she's the one who's here, not Sally, and it's up to her to send the girls to bed and to assure them she could take care of things. No need to worry, that's what she tells them. They're safe and sound tonight. While the rain pours down, while the wind rises in the east, Jillian would think of a plan. She'll have to, because Sally could no more help her figure out what to do than she could leap from a tree and fly. So, page 241. The world seems gray and the roads are slick, but Gary doesn't mind the dim and somber night. There have been nothing but blue skies in Tucson for months, and Gary isn't bothered by a little rain. Maybe rain will cure the way he feels inside and wash away his worries. Maybe he can get on the plane tomorrow at 9:25, smile at the flight attendant, then catch a couple hours of sleep before he was to report into the office. Again, Gary just seems like such a nonchalant sheriff cop. Like, he's just like, whatever, it'll get done when it gets done.
It seems like a natural flirt. Like, consciously putting that line in to smile at the stewardess. Like, bring me that extra bourbon. Kind of.
It's
Do you think
alright.
he's a drinker?
Oh, probably.
Yeah.
He'd have to be in his line of work. He probably sees so much shit.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, my godfather, Mark, he's a detective and was a cop for years before he became a detective. The stories he's told me.
That's such a dope job. Like,
Yeah, but it's like, it's heavy. Who doesn't love a good crime?
murder.
Murder?
Murder.
All right, so page 242. Gary combs his wet hair back with his fingers, and for a moment, the whole car smells like rain. Have you had dinner? He lifts the bucket of chicken. My favorite scene! He's also got onion rings and fries. I couldn't eat, Sally tells him. Gary opens the door and sets the bucket outside in the rain. He set a whole bucket of chicken outside in the rain. Soggy chicken. Page 243. Gary thinks this over while the rain taps against the roof of the car. They can't see out the windshield, and the windows are all fogged up. Also on page 243, the woman who works in the motel office has run outside wearing a black rain poncho and carrying a broom she'll use to unclog the gutters before tomorrow's predicted storm. Sally herself isn't thinking about her gutters. She's not wondering if her girls thought to close the windows, and at this moment, she doesn't care if her roof will make it through the gale force wind. I love how the writers of the film added in those like sneaky little nods to the book, because here she's like wondering if the girls thought to close the windows, and in the movie she's like, don't forget to close the windows.
Did your parents ever tell you to do that?
Oh yeah.
Like, mine would tell me all the time, go close all the windows.
Uh-huh.
You go close all the windows. You opened them.
I don't know why they thought that was a job for us.
I don't know.
It's like, they're like, you seem like you'd be really good at that. You can have that job.
You have that upper body strength and those little nimble fingers that can grip. You got the sticky fingers.
The sticky fingers. And that's where you originally got the name, right?
That's right,
Closing all those windows. Page 251. The rain will begin after midnight. On this, the aunts agree. It will fall in sheets like rivers of glass. It will fall until the whole world seems silver and turned upside down. You can feel such things when you have rheumatism or when you've lived as long as the aunts have.
I got the rheumatism.
Yeah.
Ankle.
So you feel like things before, like when it's going to rain, like when the weather's change?
Oh, yeah. Bitch
Yeah.
gets stiff.
I hate that. Page 255. Late at night, Jet and Francis both hear the sounds of those boys laughing as they run through the rain, then stumble into the darkness. Their voices are still young and filled with expectation, exactly as they sounded at the moment when they were struck down. So is that referring to the boys that died when Jet and Francis were kids?
Yeah, I think so. But that's weird because I know somewhere else in this book, doesn't it say that two boys that liked Jillian also did that same thing?
Oh.
Do you remember that? They ran
Yeah.
across the green and got struck?
So the same way that the boys did it in Rules of Magic with Jet and Francis?
Yeah, but the boys that did it for Jet and Franny died, but the boys that did it for Jillian, remember, like, their hair stood on end and their eyes never closed, not even when
Oh,
they slept.
yeah.
Do you remember that?
Something like that, yeah. I don't know why that didn't. I guess maybe rain wasn't part of that passage because I didn't search storm or lightning or
No worries.
anything
Yeah,
like
it was
that.
just
We could
something to
do a
think about.
lightning episode because I feel like that would be a whole other can of worms too.
Yes, let's do that.
Yeah.
I'll put that on the list.
Yeah, put it on the list. So page 268, Antonia
It's
and
on the
Kylie-
list already.
Is it? Okay, yeah, we'll get to that. That'll be cool. That'll be a fun episode. Page 268, Antonia and Kylie carry the pot out to the yard. The rain is quite near. They can taste it in the air. The aunts have already had the girls bring their suitcase over to the hedge of thorns. They stand close together, and when the wind rustles their skirts, the fabric makes a moaning sound. This dissolves, Aunt Frances, this dissolves what was once flesh. So wait, they made the girls lug over that heavy-ass suitcase with all the fucking blue stones in it?
Yeah, bruh.
Right? Might as well just go tell them to go close all the windows.
It's the upper body strength, of course.
upper body strength.
That's their circuit. Close the windows, bury body, and carry suitcases.
Get all the bitch work. What the fuck? Page 270. That was him, Kylie says, of the red vapor. And sure enough, they could smell beer and boot polish. They could feel the air grow as hot as embers in an ashtray. And then nothing. Nothing at all. Jillian can't be sure if she's crying or if the rain has begun. He's really gone, Kylie tells her. And we have a couple more in this book. Page 271. Some people believe that every question has a logical answer. There's an order to everything which is neat and based purely on empirical evidence. But really, what could it be but luck that the rain doesn't begin in earnest until their work is done? Page 272. The rain is coming down hard. It's washing those blue stones out in the yard clean as new. They'd be stupid if they were disappointed, Sally says. She loops her arm through her sister's. She thinks she may actually mean what she's just said. and the aunts are definitely not stupid. Tonight, Sally and Jillian will concentrate on the rain, and tomorrow on the blue sky. All right, so that was the end of Practical Magic, and now we're going to go on to book number 2, The Rules of Magic, when the aunts were younger. And this is all the aunts' backstory. So this starts on page 31, and it says, by now, Franny had her own suspicions about their heritage. She had taken... Jesus Christ, my eyes are...
Don't be suspicious, don't be suspicious.
She had taken to going off by herself on rainy afternoons. While the others were lazying about, she'd spent time at the public library, paging through old inky issues of the Salem Mercury and the Essex Gazette. She discovered a legacy of witchcraft associated with the Owens family. Page 43. One night, when thunder was rolling across the sky... Thunder! Thunder! Love that song. Jet looked out the window to spy April and Vincent playing strip poker in the garden. Laughing.
We're cousins!
You're so fucking weird. Laughing and tossing off shirts and shoes. Not even the rain stopped them. On page 54, when Vincent next ran into Mrs. Rustler in his aunt's kitchen, come for a bottle of vinegar from an old Owens recipe that used molasses and rainwater, he felt a chill. The vinegar was used for impotent men, of which her husband was one. When Mrs. Rustler raised her eyes to meet his, Vincent could tell she didn't recognize him. It was as if she had never seen him before, let alone taught him the intricacies of what a woman such herself wanted in bed.
That's a handy spell to have.
Yeah. The vinegar one?
But the making, like, you ever have one of those people in your life you're like, oh, I really wish I could forget about that person, or have them forget about me.
Yeah. So
like, oh, that was a mistake.
Yeah, we've had some of those in our days, right?
Yep.
I was thinking that it was interesting that Alice mentions molasses here, because in the film, as we know, the molasses gets the legs to open up.
Do you think Michael was impotent?
I don't know. No, he couldn't have been, because they had Kylie and Antonia.
Yeah, but they had to use molasses.
But for Sally, because she was a prude, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I was just wondering what the rainwater would have contributed to the molasses.
Oh, no.
And if the molasses, in this case, has any bearing on what it meant in the movie.
We will probably find out when we get into our magic and lore section, because it always we have all these questions in the first half, and then by the time we get to the lore, we're like, we're fucking smart. Look at that.
We just piece it all together.
Yep.
We're detectives.
Yeah.
So on page 62, the night was indeed cloudy with a storm brewing. It was Massachusetts weather, unpredictable and nasty, with sparks of electricity skittering through the air. As they made their way down Magnolia Street, a pale drizzle had already begun to drip from the overcast sky. By the time they reached the park, buckets were falling. The girls were so drenched that when Franny wrung out her long hair, the water streamed out red. That's when she knew they had made a mistake. The boys were making a mad dash through the park. Even the swans were huddled beneath the shrubbery. A clap of thunder sounded. "Oh no," Jet said, overwhelmed by the turn fate was taking. The sisters signaled for the boys to run back to safety, but it was now impossible to see through the sheets of rain, and the boys raced onward. The sisters were at the edge of the pond when lightning struck, but even before the incandescent bolts illuminated the sky, Franny could smell sulfur. The boys were hit in an instant. They stumbled as if shot, then fell shuddering to the ground. Blue smoke rose from their fallen bodies.
I wonder what lightning, well, we're going to do its own episode, but I'm curious as to what lightning is more attracted to, water or
open spaces.
Something, or open spaces. Yeah.
Like, when you're little and you're in the pool and like it's like the sky starts rumbling and your parents are like, "Get out of the pool."
Our rule was like, if it's raining, you can keep swimming, but as soon as there was thunder, everybody out.
Get the fuck out, right?
The fuck out. So spooky.
Spooky. So, where are we? Okay, so page 62. People in town said it was an accident. They said that lightning was unpredictable, and the boys had been foolish to run through the stinging rain in their Sunday clothes. But Franny knew better. It was the curse.
It was the curse, wasn't it?
Page 67. On the morning of their departure, they had an early breakfast together. Rain was pouring down, rattling the green glass windows. Now that it was time to leave, they felt surprisingly nostalgic, as if their childhoods had ended along with their summer vacation. Aunt Isabel handed them their bus tickets. "You'll have a good trip. Rain before 7, sun by 11. And sure enough, the rain ceased while their aunt was speaking. She's magic. That lady's pure magic. Page 69. In Massachusetts, everything had a faint green aroma, a combination of cucumber, wisteria, dogwood, and peppermint. That sounds like a wonderful Bath and Body Works scent there, right? If
what would you call that?
They combined all those things.
Like green rain.
Green rain. What's that song? Chocolate Rain.
Chocolate rain. What's it? Taison Day?
Maybe a Massachusetts morning or
Ooh.
Massachusetts mist.
Are we gonna have a rain playlist?
Ooh, we should.
WMSR
There's so
rain?
many good rain songs.
There are.
Right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Early Morning Rain, Gordon Lightfoot, Patti Smith.
Thunder only happens when it's raining.
Yep. Lightning and the Thunder.
Thunder? Yeah.
Thunder.
There's a lot of good ones.
Yeah.
All right. So maybe is that our next MSR episode?
Yeah, sure.
All right, cool. All right, so also page 69. So yeah, in Massachusetts, everything had a faint green aroma, a combination of cucumber, wisteria, dogwood, and peppermint. But the scent of the city changed every day. You could never predict what it might be. Sometimes it was a perfume of rain falling on cement. Sometimes it was the crispy scent of bacon, or a sweet and sour loneliness, or curry, or coffee. And of course, there were days in November that smelled of chestnuts, which meant a cold snap was sure to come. That's all those scents sound cozy as hell. So page 88. You probably never will. He'll refuse to be in the same room. He's not too well bred to hate us. I wandered into his garden during my first visit to Aunt Isabel's, and he came out and poured salt on the ground as if I had contaminated the place. Our aunt went over there, and I received a letter of apology in the mail. But his garden died right after. Maybe it was a lack of rain, or maybe it was our aunt. I don't know. I just know none of this bodes well for a happy future for you and Levi Willard. So that was in reference to the Reverend, because he was so salty. Literally, he poured salt on the ground to kill all of their, flowers or whatever.
Aunt Isabel literally going over there to give him the what for. It's so funny.
Yeah.
You will apologize with a handwritten letter, young man.
But he was such a jerk, right? Like, what was the reasoning for that? So page 100, Vincent didn't know what to think. He saw in Levi something he'd never felt himself. This was what love looked like. This was what it could do to you. Vincent found himself walking to Magnolia Street. It had begun to rain, and so he ran. He wondered if he would ever feel that someone was worth fighting for, if there would ever be a person who would make him stand up and take a chance and have the courage to be reckless. Page 106. This is about Franny and Halen. They nestled close together to avoid a pale rain as they walked toward Madison Avenue, pretending to fight over a single umbrella. So these next things that are highlighted in green, these were things referencing the green rain. I just wanted to get a visual of how many of these passages were actually talking about the green rain. So page 107, and also if we can find any, I guess, connections from each instance, what the purpose of this green rain is. So if anything sticks out at you along the way, let me know. So page 107, in Cambridge, anything could happen. The rain was stopping. The air was green. Spring was thick with lilacs and possibility. Page 138, when they finally straggled inside, rain had begun to fall. It was a green, fresh rain, the sort most needed in summer when everything is burning hot and thirsty. Page 139. The limo drove them back to Manhattan through a gray drizzle. The streets were empty and hot. They piled out onto 89th Street and stood on the sidewalk. They lived here all their lives, yet it didn't feel like home. Franny found she couldn't bring herself to go inside. Vincent helped Jet out of the car, then looked at Franny, wanting to know what was to happen next. Go on, she told him. It was now thundering, but Franny wouldn't budge. Go, she insisted, and so they did, while she remained where she was. Though soon enough the clouds opened, leaving her soaking. She had lost not only her parents, but her future as well. Page 140. When Halen didn't hear from her as promised, he sprinted to 89th Street. He spied her standing in the driving rain and ran faster. Page 140. There was no need to say anything. The weather was still hot and pavements steamed as raindrops hit the cement. All of Manhattan smelled of hyacinths. I'm always going to love you, Hay said. He came upstairs with her. They slipped through the parlor and went to the cook's bedroom. They could hear the wet gusts of rain as the windows rattled. This whole scene was Franny and Halen losing their virginity to each other. Page 141. He watched Franny where she was poised on a chair by the window. The rain had stopped and Louis was outside, his plumage gleaming wet as he pecked at the glass. Page 159. Once lugged home, what had formerly been trash was used to create a makeshift greenhouse where herbs could be grown from seed. When it rained, the place flooded, but that only seemed to help even the most delicate plants grow. They burst through the glass roof, and before long, the entire greenhouse was covered with vines.
Oh my.
It sounds beautiful.
That sounds like a goddamn mess. That's beautiful. What?
My mind
flooded, shattered glass everywhere.
My mind went to like a vine covered, like I went to this lavender farm once and they had this geometric dome. It was like piping. It wasn't a greenhouse. But I don't know why that's what my mind went to. Like the whole thing was covered in like vines, I think like clematis and I forget what else, but it was really pretty the way that they had it like all like covered with the vines. But yeah, the broken glass does not sound that does not sound good. So page 215, they, talking about Vincent and William, camped out in Golden Gate Park surrounded by eucalyptus trees, and when a pale mossy rain began, they raced for the shelter of the public library. There in the stacks, they met a couple who invited them to their apartment in the Mission, where they spent the night on a quilt on the floor, entwined and madly in love. Page 221, April reached over and took Vincent's hand. Tell me you don't remember. He looked at her blankly. Family was always such a bother. April raised an eyebrow, disappointed in his lack of recollection. I came to your room, into your bed. It happened on a night when there was a rainstorm, when the sparrows took shelter in the branches of lilacs below the window. They told no one and had never even spoken of it afterward. Page 265. On the first day of December 1969, the lottery was held. Men between the ages of 18 and 26 would be drafted to fight in Vietnam according to their birth dates. Lives were interrupted and fortunes were exchanged. A cold drizzle hung down and flurries of snow fell in swirls. Page 268. An icy drizzle was falling, but Halen stood there without a hat or an umbrella. Franny threw open the door so swiftly she startled him, even though he was the one who had come to call. Harry had trotted after her, and he now guarded the threshold protectively. And this is when Halen comes to tell Franny that he joined the armed forces as a doctor. Page 299, and this is about Vincent's death. It was still All Hallows Eve. The temperature had dropped. Raindrops fell and splattered on the sidewalks. A private ambulance was sent for. Reporters had been called so they might witness his death. The leaves were curling in the cold and no one seemed to have the ability to speak. All was still except for the siren as the ambulance pulled away, and then, at a little after midnight, the sound of the falling rain turned hard as it became ice striking against the sidewalks and the brown leaves of the chestnut trees. So this next mention is another green rain mention. So this page 305. She wished he were here with her now, just as a friend, of course, the friend she wanted to be with more than any other. It had begun to rain, a thin green drizzle that made the sidewalks shine. Paris is sad, she wrote, but beautiful enough to make you not care about your sadness. I don't remember if that was talking about Franny in regards to Halen.
Right. I'm curious.
Talking about Levi. Yeah.
I'm wondering because this next passage is the same page that it is Franny and Halen.
Oh, yeah,
Perhaps?
yeah, you're probably right. Yep, probably right. Yeah, so this is also page 305. Franny fell asleep beside Halen, exhausted. When she woke, he was sitting on the edge of the bed watching the rain falling. They were supposed to stay away from each other, but their pact didn't need to apply yesterday nor today. The sky outside was thick with rain clouds. Paris was so gray in November. So yeah, then the last one was definitely about Franny and Halen. On page 309, some children called her the Daffodil Lady because she always carried a bunch of blooms, and this is referring to Jet. Sometimes the Reverend gave her a ride home, especially if it was raining hard. He was there every Sunday as well. In nice weather, he brought 2 lawn chairs, and when the sky was overcast, he brought a large black umbrella. So by that time, I guess they had made amends, and they're working on their relationship at this point. I guess
Good for
just
them.
becoming friends.
Yeah.
Page 312. Sorry to hear you're not well, the Reverend said. I'll be better by next week, Jet said. I expect you will be, the Reverend said. The weather will be better then too, so they say. Yes, I've heard that too. No rain. Good, the Reverend said.
They're just awkward
making
conversation,
awkward
man.
Small talk, yeah. So awkward. So page 318. Henbane, known as black nightshade, used by men to attract women and by women to bring rain. So I think that was like in like one of those little sections that it was just saying like little old folk tales. So page 353. The world was mossy and green with rain that splattered down for days on end. Page 354. This is talking about Regina and Daniel, the Sally and Jillian's parents, right? Yeah, so it says he, talking about Daniel, kissed her, Regina, on the mouth and made her laugh, and after that she seemed more like her old self, the one who knew how to have fun and who always took her daughters outside to dance in the rain, and her daughters referring to little Sally and...
Do you know that the sky supposedly, like, you get tornadoes in Jersey or no? Like the sky supposedly like turns green when tornadoes are coming. Yeah, that's the only thing like I can think of with this green rain, green air.
So, page 355. As the babysitter considered their future, her despair set into her fits of uncontrollable weeping. It was pouring, buckets of cold, stinging rain. No one could dance in this sort of weather. The trees were shuddering without the sisters willing them to do so. Leaves fell like a black blanket. Birds that always gathered at Sally's window disappeared. The girls waited for their babysitter to catch her breath and stop crying. Didn't they live out in California before they came over to the East Coast? So that's interesting because it like hardly ever rains in California, right? Like
there's definitely a wet season during winter because it doesn't get cold, but their earth is so like unprepared and their causeways and their roads are so unprepared for rain. Everything floods and you have these huge waterfalls of water just coming off streets, like landslides and stuff. It's so sketchy. It's very dangerous. But they do get a lot of rain because they get hurricanes out there. Yeah. And the like runoff from the mountains, because the mountains are right there within like 45 minutes of where we were. So if they get a lot of snow over the winter and then it's hot and all that shit comes rushing down.
True. Well, it's scary.
Mother Nature.
Okay, 355 to 356. So this is about Regina and Daniel's death now. It says, their parents had taken a canoe down the Russian River, loaded down with their father's fishing equipment and their mother's paints and canvases and the pastels that had been sent from Paris. When the rains commenced, suddenly and without warning, the canoe overturned. Daniel nearly went under in the rushing tide, but he managed to hang on to the hull of the boat. Their mother, so buoyant she could not be drowned, floated alongside him, saying encouraging words so he wouldn't give up. When they at last made it to the shore, they were grateful for their luck. There was a small motel, and they checked in to wait out the storm. They must have dozed off, and they didn't hear the storm worsen. When lightning struck the building, they were tangled together in bed, deeply asleep, not recognizing that there were curses in this world. And they were still there, arms around each other, when the fire began, with smoke filtering through the walls of the room. Isn't it crazy how they had that boating accident and they survived it, but then they died in like sleeping?
Final destination.
What the fuck? Fucked up shit.
Do you think that because Regina, this is Regina, right? Because she was so buoyant, she just Titanic doored Daniel back to shore?
Maybe. Titanic doored? Yeah, I could see that. I could see that happening. She was just, she was the flotation device and... Yeah, but then they just both died anyway. What the fuck?
Death wants you, it's gonna take you.
Death is knocking on the door. That's it for rules of magic. Now we're gonna get into magic lessons. There's some mention of green rain in this book too, so it's just interesting how Alice just ties us all together. So magic lessons, page 11. Again, with like the old wives' tales. It says, ferns call rain but fend off lightning. And it was like, that little line was in like a whole bunch of other folk tales, but I just pulled that one because of the rain. I think it would be cool to do an episode on ferns too, because those are like a really big like rain
especially
plant.
their tie with the fae. Remember me sending that video about fae trap? Like if it's waving at you.
Dewdrops are also a fae trap, so I've heard. So page 14. As soon as she could speak, Maria could predict the weather, just as a crow can tell when a windstorm will come, often beginning to fly erratically hours before the first gusts. Maria could taste snow in the air and know the skies would open before rain fell.
She's French now. Marie could taste the snow in.
Page 35. A stormy cloud-clouded sky didn't cause her to take shelter or find rest. Rain didn't stop her. She was on the path she had decided upon as she watched Hannah tied to her door. So page 45. Maria was a weather witch. So there it says it right there. Maria is all about the rain, the weather. She could stop rain by standing in a downpour with her arms uplifted. She could melt the drifts of snow that she had walked upon.
I just see her out there, arms up. Stop it! Stop it right now!
Or hail to the guardians of the watchtowers of the west.
These are my gifts.
These are my gifts. Shit. I love that scene. It never gets old. All right, so page 56. At night, the stars tore through the black sky, and when it rained, the world itself seemed upside down, with water above and below. Strong men cried and called for their mothers during the worst of these storms, and fish leapt onto the deck to escape the roiling waves. But Caden clattered into Maria's ear that they merely needed to stay alive, nothing more. Take a breath, hold tight, and soon enough the sky would reappear. blue as glass, and the men would return to work, not remembering how they wept for their mother's arms. These same sailors did not soon forget that Maria could announce a storm before it appeared on the horizon, any more than they would forego her remedies, for she was soon enough known to be a healer, and many of the men had learned to come to her when they were ill. Page 58, for sea travel, another, I guess, one of these remedy lists throughout this book. If the cat on board sleeps in a coil, the weather will be bad. If the sun rises red, there will be rain. Page 68, Maria never revealed how she knew to take in the laundry just before rain began to fall, or how she'd managed to chase the rats from the garden with a bit of white powder, or why she left garlic, salt, and rosemary outside their chamber door to protect those inside from ill will. Diamonds. Page 76, this was not a place for the faint-hearted, and the beauty of the island belied its trials. The winds could raise a man into the air and toss him back down half a mile from where he originally stood. Rain rarely fell, and when it did, it was collected in barrels. Even then, it carried the taste and sheen of salt. Another couple green rain mentions. Page 90. It had begun to rain, a hard green rain that would cause mudslides in the northern hills. Maria shivered in the sudden cold wind that burst through the window. She herself had caused the rain, and all over the island small sorrows would grow, and children would fuss for no reason, so that not even their mothers' voices could comfort them. They had never seen rain this color before, and some young women collected it in pots so they might wash with it, for green is love and luck, just as it is jealousy and envy. On page 105, she filled a pan with water from the rain barrel outside their door, then slipped off his shirt and washed him with the cool water and black soap, her hand stroking his chest and arms. And this was referring to her remedying Samuel's breakbone fever on the ship, which the rain in that barrel was probably the green rain. So if Maria was using this kind of green rain to remedy Samuel's affliction, perhaps it in fact had some healing powers? I don't know.
Barrel just outside the door. Are they on the boat?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm curious if it would have been green rain, because usually the ocean is blue because it's reflecting the sky and all that shit. So I could see the green rain being when they're on land because the grass and the trees and all that stuff. But I'm wondering if it would be in the middle of the ocean, if they would have a green rain.
Right.
Curious.
So page 111, the rain fell and turned into mist. The sky was gray and the sea grew rough as they traveled north. When a disk of sun broke through, it was possible to spy cliffs and seals sprawled upon the ledges of the rocks. In the very far distance, there was a haze of green. Massachusetts was indeed huge and wild. Page 112. He made certain to avoid Maria, sleeping on deck with the rest of the men covered with tarred sheets of linen to protect them from rain and seawater. Page 182. At the end of the day, John Hathorne stood up and declared there was reason enough to prosecute Maria Owens. That night in bed, his hands began to bleed. He rushed outside and poured water from the rain barrel over his palms, but he could not wash the blood away. Page 188. Later, they would swear she'd had a smile on her face and that she made the rain fall in torrents, and the toads came in masses through the mud so that the earth itself moved beneath their feet. Page 203. By morning, the magnolia had been planted in Maria's garden. Diaz had worked for hours with a shovel he'd stolen from a farmer's field. There was a light green rain spattering down, and toward the end, he'd been digging through soppy mud, arms and legs streaked black, but at last the job had been completed. He awoke before dawn to find the tree in full bloom, a bower of cream-colored stars on dark, leathery leaves. So again, that green rain, I guess, while he was planting that magnolia, do we think that green rain had anything to do with it fully blooming in like one night, right? Maybe the green rain does have some magical, mystical powers.
I was trying to find a connection, just highlighting as you were talking.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, it just sounds like it was a soothing thing. It was a positive thing, lots of possibilities. It was needed. And then it turns into kind of an unnerving thing where the kids couldn't be soothed and small sorrows would grow. But it's also green, the color green, love and luck. So I'm getting mixed signals.
Right, yeah. I'm not sure if Alice like had clear intentions when using the green rain, or if she was just using it like kind of passe, like it was just a thing that happened in this world that she built. You know? Not sure.
I could see it being solely used during like a springtime scenario or situation in these books, but we don't really know throughout all four of these books what seasons they're in.
There might be some kind of timeline here that says what season this is in, but I didn't go that far into like, you know, pinpointing all that. Yeah. So I'd have to read the book again in like full detail to like get the full details of things, because the last time I actually read this like cover to cover, like it's been a while. So
Yeah.
Some of the details are fuzzy. I should probably read it again just to brush up. So on page 209, it says, she saw John Hathorne among the crowd, and she couldn't stop herself. She cried out a curse that opened the skies, and a squall arose, a drenching rain that would flood every farm and every house. The man who had brought her to Essex County stood in the field and nearly drowned as he gulped down rain. She would protect herself and her daughters, and all the daughters who might follow from any such betrayals in the future. To any man who ever loves an Owens, let this curse befall you. Let your fate lead to disaster. Let you be broken in body and soul, and may it be that you never recover. So did she, I guess, in essence, incorporate rain into the curse?
I don't think so. I don't know. I'd have to reread it again.
Yeah. Okay. So also on page 209, this is the same scene. Maria leapt from the platform, the rope around her throat. The rain stopped as suddenly as it had begun, and there was silence as the trees dropped their leaves. The crowd drew a breath, expecting to view the horrible contortions of a hanged person who dangled in the air, but instead the line of rope broke. I guess the rain, saved her life, in essence, kind of, maybe? I know
water for sure, because the rope was from the boat, which was
salt water,
ocean, and the salt water just wore it
it
away. I'm sure the extra rainfall did not help.
Right.
Strength of the rope.
She just had to bring down that rain for extra dramatic effect on the gallows when she was
Bring on the rain. What song is that?
That's
a country song.
Is it? Okay. It's just she had to curse everyone and their mother and their mother's mother and their, everybody, every which way. She
Savage.
was cursing people, and she just had to bring that rain down to make her point very clear.
Yes. Drama mama.
So, lots of rain there. So another green rain reference here, page 212. The green rain she had okay, so here we go. The green rain she had called down upon the people of Salem had also washed away any trail that might have been left, making it impossible for the wolf to track Faith. Keeper knew it as well. The girl was gone. So her daughter Faith was kidnapped by that Martha Chase bitch, right? And now the rain washed away the scent, so now it made her harder to find her daughter.
Right. Fucking Maria, you are a weather witch.
Yeah.
Get it together.
Get it together.
Jesus.
It's like she's only a weather witch when it's convenient for her.
Yeah. She was distracted by the hanging. She couldn't stop the rain for Faith, because that's when Faith was taken or given over. It was right before that gallows scene. Mm-hmm.
That's right. Yeah, I forgot that's the timeline of it. But yeah. Page 222. Once he'd been tied to a post by a gang of unruly boys and left there in the rain, unable to escape from the ropes that bound him, until a keeper at last tracked him down and Maria cut him free. On page 229, Samuel Diaz tore at his clothes and Maria helped him. He was burning and so was she. The broth on the bedside table would wait. The world could wait as well. Outside, rain had begun to fall. Maiden Lane was silent and green, but nothing outside this chamber mattered.
Business time.
Was that when she was trying to cure another outbreak of his breakbone fever?
Probably. But it sounds like she's hot and bothered. He was burning and so was she.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe
And the broth on the bedside table could wait. That's definitely...
Oh, they're getting the
precursor.
frisky.
Yeah.
Okay. So page 230, let his life be over if it must be. Let the last thing he see be the rain on the window glass. The white plaster walls, Maria's black hair falling over her shoulders, the line of daybreak over Manhattan, a sky that was the purest cobalt blue, the blue of heaven, which, no matter what they might wish or what they might do, signified the end of a night of love. Okay. Right. Okay, there it is. Yeah, they're getting the frisky.
Get your freak on. Get your freak on. Oh, that's such a good intro.
Wait, what?
Get.
Quiet. Hush
Who's
your
that
mouth.
bitch?
Silence when I spit it out. In your face. Open your mouth. Give you a taste. Hello.
I love that song.
I fucking love Missy Elliott.
And Nelly Furtado.
And Nelly Furtado. That whole crew back in the day, Timbaland, Missy, Nelly Furtado. Fuck Justin Timberlake. He could go fuck himself. Who was the other? Aaliyah was part of that crew before she had passed away. Her and Missy were so tight. Such good music. Anyway, so page 240. After the bracelets had been locked onto her wrists, Faith felt a pale dullness inside of her. She could no longer call birds to her or see what was to come. She could not make the clouds move or ask the sky to rain. So I guess Faith was also a weather witch through lineage, yeah. When she dipped her hands in the streams, the fish swam away from her. I guess it's an aversion to the metal that was like on her wrists that remember Martha put those bracelets on her to prevent her from using her magic? Page 257, this is in reference to Abraham's funeral. The burial took place on a blue June day, and the achingly beautiful weather made the loss cut more deeply. It would have been more fitting had there been rain or hail or black storms blowing in from the sea, a world from which a man wished to escape, not this perfect day. Page 257. That night, the house on Maiden Lane felt much too empty. Samuel had torn his clothes, as mourners are commanded to do. For 7 days he sat outside, even when it rained. Page 258. Rather than argue, they went upstairs. The bed was small, but it didn't matter. Rain began in the middle of the night, but they didn't care. Once more, and then never again. That's what she told herself. But it was a lie, and her mouth burned even though she didn't say the words aloud. So this is when she wants to give Samuel back the ring that his father Abraham gave to her before he died, and Samuel tells her to keep it because his father would have wanted her to have it. That's why he gave it to her in the first place. And she was like, no, I have no right to take this. So it's just a scene of them arguing and like going back and forth. So page 278. Faith could feel her power increasing immediately. A breath, a sigh, and she was herself again. She glanced at the sky and knew it would rain if she wished it to, and that's when her bracelets came off. So that was the end of magic lessons. So definitely some interesting green rain references going on there, as well as now we know both Maria and Faith are weather witches. Now we know it passed on because like Kylie has a thing with the rain and Jet has the thing with the rain, so it's kind of like passed down from there. So I thought that was interesting to kind of like look at all of this kind of like with a microscope, and putting all of those references together and making those connections was really fun.
Yeah, and I think it solidifies their place in like the natural world, not just using herbs to heal, but also the weather to alter situations.
Absolutely. So we're going to move on to the last book, right? This is the last one, Book of Magic. So this starts on page 20, and this says, the sky turned lemon colored, and they huddled in the castle during a quick blast of rain. Then they went arm in arm to the boathouse for brunch. The dog hidden in Jet's purse and fed bits of toast. Oh, that was in reference to Jet and Raphael. I guess they went on a little date or whatever. On page 52. They'd been tall, moody New York teenagers dressed in black. Vincent had carried a guitar. Franny had blood-red hair that left scarlet pools on the cement when she was out in the rain, and every black cat came yowling out onto the street when Jet approached. So page 55 to 56. The service after the burial was brief, due to Reverend Willard's inability to stand for more than a few minutes at a time, and of course there was the appearance of the raindrops, the soft green shower Jet always called daffodil rain. I actually did a search on the term daffodil rain to see if that was like a thing, like about like green rain or whatever. Of course I didn't find anything, so I'm sure it's something just Alice, fictionalized for the sake of the story. But you never know with her, because she does pull a lot from history and, reality.
Totally.
So never know.
Come up surprise sometimes.
Yeah. And then it happened. The very last speaker, a plain-spoken second cousin from Maine who thought of herself as the family historian, read a letter composed by Faith Owens. As the rain began, the cousin read Faith's note in her flat New England-speaking voice. We who are cursed in love are born to fight that curse in every way we can until the one among us who can break it appears. Until that time, we must love as best as we can. Our fates may already be determined, but each day is ours to live as we see fit. End quote. Where did they get that note from?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, the historian must have had it from Faith, maybe in the library?
Yeah.
I have no
It's
idea.
a crazy heirloom to find. Page 57. Right now, Kylie appeared overheated, her face flushed even though they were standing in the cool spring rain. She never revealed the skills she possessed, for her odd talents made her nervous. Page 58 to 59. Antonia and Kylie walked side by side on the way home, wearing black coats, holding up wide black umbrellas to protect against the pale spring rain that was spattering down. The world was dizzy with new leaves and the scent of rain, sweet and fresh and green. It was their task to get to the house and set up lunch before the mourners arrived. It was a sort of damp, soft weather their aunt had always loved. I'm talking about Jet. She loved that green rain. Page 59. Franny, however, didn't seem the least bit fearsome now. She stood holding a bunch of rain-drenched daffodils. They were Jet's favorite flower. Also page 59. Witches were said to never cry, but Franny's face was puffy, and she wore sunglasses in the rain. She could not imagine the world without her sister, who had been wounded terribly in her youth and had still managed to love more, not less. Page 65. Franny went to the window and nodded to Raphael, who came to open it. The rain had stopped, and the air was fresh. As it turned out, this day in March was the most beautiful day of the year. It would be like Jet to choose such a day to be interred, so that her family would be reminded of how glorious the world was. Page 85. Now she, talking about Franny, sat in a garden chair that was damp with droplets from yesterday's rain shower. With the letter in hand, she felt a swell of love for her brother. Page 91. He knew Kylie was sensitive and could often tell what was to come. She could foretell when it would rain and when classes would be canceled. Also on page 91, I'm going to fail, right? Gideon said when he saw the dread on her face. Kylie had a flash of a vision. A blank paper, an empty chair, a day of scarlet rain. Red, right? Now we're talking about the red rain. A lake with no bottom, a man with black hair. From her expression, it was clear the future contained something worse than a failed exam. Page 92. The weather was changing. It was turning wicked. As they crossed Mass Ave, Kylie had the chills, as if the west wind had cut right through her. The sky had begun to glaze over with wind-blown clouds as if it were the witching hour rather than 3 in the afternoon. Kylie decided she wouldn't let Gideon out of her sight. Curse or not, nothing could happen if she watched over him. Page 92. That was when the rain started to pelt down on rooftops and roads, but Kylie didn't hear the torrents of rain because she was kissing him. Page 93. While she slept, Kylie dreamed of rain, for by now it was pouring buckets. The common was flooded and the birds hid in the bushes and under the eaves, doing their best to avoid the deluge. The women in the Owens family were attracted to water, even though it could be dangerous for them, for water always revealed the truth about who they were. That had been a problem for Kylie and Antonia Owens, for their mother feared that a single glimpse of the truth would rock their lives. Kylie and her sister had never been allowed to go to the town pool for swimming lessons, but every summer their Aunt Jillian had brought them to Leech Lake on the sly, permitting them to break the rules and float in the cool, glassy water for hours. Still, there were some issues even she refused to discuss. When asked why they could never remain underwater and always popped up, as if made of cork, Jillian would tell them that some gifts should never be questioned. Be happy you can't sink, she would cry. Enjoy every minute. So not only rain, like obviously they have this connection with, the whole family has the connection with water. Page 95. He left Dunster House in the stinging rain and headed over the wet pavement down Brattle Street, a fortunate young man who dreaded nothing more than Latin class. When he dashed across the street, there was thunder and he looked up at the mottled sky when he should have been watching the traffic speeding down the road. He heard the horns blaring before everything around him was ashes, a world black as night, and that was in reference to Gideon, Kylie's boyfriend, right? He got in that, I guess he got hit by a car.
I'm wondering, because very similar to Michael, not paying attention,
right.
stepping off the street. But in this book, this last book, doesn't she change how Michael died? She changes it to lightning.
Yes.
And I'm wondering if she did that in order for it not to be so redundant with Gideon getting hit by a car.
Oh.
I don't know.
Maybe
I'm curious.
not. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, Gideon got hit by a car, right? He didn't get struck by lightning?
Right, but Michael in this last book got the lightning instead of the car.
You're right. Yeah. Okay. Good catch. Yeah, interesting. I don't know what her reasoning was for that little switch up, but
lack of outline.
Okay, so page 97. As soon as the rainstorm lifted, Franny went into the garden, cringing to see the damage. There was a spell of protection over their house, and even hurricanes passed by their address. But that wasn't the case in this dark spring. Leaves had been blasted from the trees by gusts of wet wind, the tomato seedlings had been washed away. The herb garden was flooded with murky pools. Flowers that had bloomed had wilted in a matter of minutes. Page 101. Sally had seen the sight despite herself, and now a vision flashed as if she herself had stood on Brattle Street in the pouring rain. There was the slick pavement and the muffled sounds of speeding cars, and Gideon dashing out, grinning when he spied yellow flowers in the window of the florist shop. So I put theory here. I think what I was trying to say was, so Gideon dashed out, grinning when he spied yellow flowers in the window of the florist shop. So I'm thinking that Jet's spirit had given him that sign of these yellow flowers to get his attention to, it sounds a little morbid, to in fact make him get into that accident to propel Kylie to go forth and break this family's curse to save Gideon. It is such a dark place to go, but it makes sense, right? Why would he Why else would Alice put yellow flowers there for him to just see? They're daffodils. Those were Jet's daffodils. Why else would he see yellow flowers right before he gets hit by a car?
And also, does he get hit in it's springtime? Like, people are either being born or dying in this month of March, we're gonna say.
And also, if this did happen in the springtime, and I'm pretty sure this happened maybe the same month that Jet passes away. They do say that when people just pass away and they still have that unfinished business, their strongest presence is like within that like month span of like when they pass away, because they're still trying to get messages out to their family, unfinished business, trying to tie up loose ends.
That is so dark, though.
It's fucking twisted, but it's the only thing that I can think of that would make sense to propel Kylie, because now she knows that did Kylie have the book at that point? I don't remember, but the only thing that I can think of is that maybe she was trying to like get Kylie to be like, hey, I need attention. I need you to do this job for me, even though.
But it wasn't. But
it was meant for Franny.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't fucking know. Maybe she just like saw that Franny was so distraught over her death. Maybe like after she had passed away, maybe she regretted leaving it for Franny. Maybe she saw Kylie was more able to
take the challenge,
get the task done, because you know she's younger and more ambitious.
One of our elite employees.
I love that TikTok.
That character is so funny.
What was the one where it was like when you want your husband to help you with your garden in the spring or whatever?
I don't know. Did you send that one to me? I
think so. Where it's awesome. Like, yeah, you're one of our elite employees.
That's cute.
So yeah, that's just a little theory I had. I know it's kind of dark, but it's I can't think of any other reason why Gideon would see those yellow flowers right before he gets impaled.
Bam.
You know? It's the whole catalyst for the whole journey that Kylie goes on.
That's true.
Right? Yeah. Is Gideon being in that accident and in that coma. She wants to save her boyfriend. So that's why she's like, all right, somebody's got to fucking break this curse, and it's gonna be
how am I gonna do it?
Exactly. So I don't know, it's just something, it was a little subtle thing that Alice threw in there thinking nobody would catch it, but guess what, I fucking caught it, and I know that's what her intention is.
Yeah.
All right, so page 120. A light rain was falling, and Agnes lent her visitors umbrellas and raincoats. Don't go over to the other side, she cheerfully warned Sally and Jillian as she bid them goodbye. Page 128. The book advised the practitioner on the practical uses of what the author referred to as magia nera, black magic, how to call up maladies to befall one's enemies, how to force a liar to tell the truth, how to conjure demons that would haunt men's daily lives as well as their dreams, how to bring a rain of destruction down from the sky. So I'm pretty sure that was regarding the Book of the Raven. Page 141. Kylie shook her head. Not my curse, she said, and there was little he could do to refute that. It was raining outside, the dark green rain that meant something was about to change. It happened before deaths and discoveries, before people went on journeys that were successful, and those from which they would never return. Page 143. She awoke with a gasp, spitting water. She could feel her baby moving inside her and sat up in the bed. Her window had been left open and the rain had come in on gusts of wind, and now everything in the room had a damp green sheen. The Charles River had flooded and Storrow Drive was impassable. And this was talking about Antonia waking up from her dream, which was kind of like a premonition of sorts. They were trying to find Kylie. Page 156. Jillian had gone up to the bar to order sandwiches and drinks and was out of earshot. The pouring rain outside had stopped, but everything was damp, the streets flooding with murky puddles. The usually busy neighborhood was all but deserted as it was just past the lunch hour. People had taken shelter and stayed where they were in case another round of rain struck, as was predicted. Page 230. The rain that had previously eased had returned, pelting down upon the streets. The world was dim, and they were fortunate to get a taxi, or maybe it wasn't luck. Maybe it was Vincent out there on the pavement beneath the street lamp that flickered gray and then bright once more. Are you ready for this? Vincent asked Sally as he opened the taxi door for her.
Are you ready for this?
Oh, was that like cheerleading song?
Yeah, it's like jock jams.
Yeah, jock jams. Holy shit, man. Bringing it back.
I know. This is a great episode for throwbacks.
No, nostalgia. Page 248. There were enchantments jotted down in red ink composed of hibiscus and the brown ink of hazelnuts and gallnuts, in which a wasp lays its eggs, used before the larva could burrow out, with deep crimson blood, with the black with the black bark of hawthorn branches or the soot of lamps, some of these inks indelible, others invisible, some laced with vinegar or rainwater, written in English and Latin and runic. And I want to do a whole like magical inks episode. Fascinating. And the fact that like Alice is talking here about using rainwater to make those magical inks. So some kind of magical properties must be in this rain to help this family do their magic, you know?
We're going to have a little bit of that in our Blood Oath episode in a couple weeks. Just a little bit about specific inks that have the word blood in them, like dragon's blood or toad's blood, stuff like that. But yeah, we should do a whole ink episode itself.
Page 262, Kylie made her way inside carefully. There were pools of rain left by passing storms, for little of the roof was left, and it was possible to see most of the sky. Page 285, when the cook came at daybreak, a fellow named Lester, he would be surprised to find them sitting there in their nightgowns, sharing a plate of buttered toast, with the pie already cooling on the windowsill so that people in the village awoke thinking that they were young again, and many came outside in their nightclothes to stand in their gardens and watch the morning sky lighten, for it was a beautiful day without a sign of the rain to come. Page 306. There had been a great deal of rain that spring, and the rushing water was high. The banks were slick with heaps of last autumn's falling leaves as they dissolved too much. So, all right. So we're going to get into the rain right now, okay?
Red rain is highlighted and bold.
Yeah. So we touched on some instances in the books where the green rain was very prevalent. So now we're going to get into the red rain. And this red rain was a whole fiasco, so much so that it needed its own entire chapter. And it's pretty long, so we're going to go through some mentions, and then I have actually outlined the important key points of the plot, so you get the gist of the entire thing. But in essence, this is the part in Book of Magic where Tom Lockland, the Owens' distant relative who was supposed to help Kylie break this curse, actually turns on Kylie and ends up drumming up this curse known as this Red Death. Very Poe, right? Very Poe-esque if you ask me. And this Red Death is basically a storm of red rain that, and I quote from the book, it says, it would blanket the village of Thornfield, affecting residents before they knew it was upon them. It would slip under doors and find its way through windows and hop person to person. The more you loved, the more you would spread it with a touch or a kiss. Breathe in and it had you. Breathe out and you passed it on. This sounds like some COVID shit, right? Like
that's exactly what I thought, because it was kind of around that time she wrote this book.
Yeah, that's right. Tom Lockland liked the irony of the curse. The closer you were to people, the more likely you were to become ill. You can't even tell me COVID did not inspire that passage.
Totally, yeah.
All right, so on page 309, he opened the Book of the Raven to the page upon which the Red Death had been written in blood and ink, and spoke the first words of the malediction. The rain will rise and fall. It will undo you and all who you love, their souls, their hearts, their livers, their lungs. Use with caution and with care. Use only in the most dire circumstances. I can't even think of like a dire circumstances where you would need to call upon this red rain and just destroy everybody's fucking life.
I don't know. Bringing Rome down, I don't understand that horror of Babylon.
Yeah, we get into Red Rain a little bit later on after the break as far as like historical references and real shit that's like really
like some biblical shit?
Some biblical shit.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool.
I found some cool shit. Can't wait to share it with you. Page 311, he chanted the invocation to call forth the plague, and as he spoke, the smoke turned from gray to red and rose up through the chimney to become clouds dispatched by the wind. The Red Death spun through the air, carried toward the village. Already there was a net of mist that was turning to rain. And on page 312, the sky was blooming with red clouds, the air was on fire, and the red rain fell on her as she left the forest and found her way to the road. She went past the old trees as their leaves dropped into red, muddy puddles. She breathed in the red droplets, knowing what the bargain was. Do you remember the character Jessie? She was like the pub keeper or whatever, like she worked at the pub. So Jessie witnesses the onset of the red rain phenomena while working at the pub. She is initially dismissive, but she soon realizes the severity of the situation. So some initial events. She notices some strange occurrences, including the sky turning red. So she seeks shelter indoors as the red rain begins to fall. So on page 313, it says, Jessie was the first to see the rain. She hadn't expected anything unusual. She'd taken for granted it would be another ordinary day and had dressed accordingly. In jeans, a blouse she especially liked, gray with a frilly white collar, to be worn under her apron in the pub. She was taking out the trash when a black dog ran past. She thought it might be Matt Poole's sister's retriever, but then it disappeared like a shadow. When she looked up, she saw that the sky had turned red. There was a mist in the air, and it seemed to be moving through town. And then all at once, the rain came down in sheets, a rain as red as blood. Jessie tossed down the dustbin and fled back to the kitchen door, but the eerie fog that accompanied the rain followed, and she rushed inside and locked the door behind her. And even still, the red mist did its best to get under the door, which thankfully had been caulked only a few weeks earlier. So then the crisis kind of escalates. The red mist permeates the town, it causes illness and panic, and the character Matt witnesses the chaos and attempts to warn the others. On page 314, the bartender, a fellow named Hal, went to look out the window. He saw the clouds, their red tendrils dipping into the treetops, and a rain spattering down so hard it shook the leaves from the trees. Also, page 314. The windows were hastily closed, but the mist had stuck to the soles of Jessie's shoes and had dusted the folds of her clothes. It was there in every cough and already spreading. 315. Matt tells Ian, something's happened in the village. A red cloud of illness has settled over the roofs. He didn't need to see more. Ian had read about such things diseases called down in Egypt and Persia, rains of death, of toads and frogs, of snakes and illness, a rain of revenge. Summon a red rain, and you never know who might be sacrificed. Margaret had heard of the Red Death as well, and was paging through her grimoire that her mother and her grandmother and her great-grand had used. So at this point, Ian and Margaret prepare to confront the crisis, and they gather remedies and spells. Page 316. To purify, to end illness, to battle maledictions, rosemary, lavender, basil, mint, and woodbine for purification, garlic, ginger, golden seal clove, and all antibacterial elements, along with an elixir of honey and boiled nettle. So despite dangers, they ventured into the town to aid the afflicted. So a little bit about Ian's journey to Lockland Manor. Ian heads toward Lockland Manor, determined to uncover the source of the plague. On page 317, it says, the rain fell harder as he turned into the road that led through the forest. The red rain hadn't fallen on these grounds. Lockland had made sure of that. While the village suffered, the parkland remained intact. He faces memories and dangers, but he presses on. Long story short, crisis averted. The red rain's effects gradually diminish due to the efforts from Franny and Margaret. The village begins its recovery with aid provided to the afflicted, and Sally has to make a sacrifice, right? So Sally prepares to confront Tom Lockland at Lockland Manor. She performs a ritual, sacrificing her magic and her hair to rid herself of Tom's influence. On page 319, it says, outside the roads were flooding with blood-colored puddles. Franny had been tending to the ill using the black soap that had first been made with antibacterial ingredients by Hannah Owens during the Black Death. Franny gives Sally the amulet that Agnes Durant had given to her to wear for protection, and then tells her that she will do her best to stop the rain. On page 321, Franny uses the Book of the Raven, which had been used to call down the red rain. She turned to the page Tom Lockland had studied so intently. He left blotchy fingerprints on the page. Sally tells Franny not to use the book, but it says Freddy. I was talking to Tex for a lot of this. But Franny insists that what started it will end it. On page 321, Franny lit a fire in a brass dish. She used red magic, cutting her poem with the letter opener and adding her blood to the mixture. Then she tore off a piece of the curtain at the window and wrapped a figure formed of melted soap in a bit of the blue fabric for protection and good health. She paged through the Book of the Raven until she came upon an ancient Aramaic incantation Amelia Bassano had discovered long ago. Franny began to recite the verse that would cause the red rain to cease. Gone are the evil spells in the ones that send it. Protect the people in this house and in this village, not only now, but for all generations now and forever and ever. Franny threw open the windows and repeated the spell without ceasing. The lethal red rain became a sputtering and then a haze halted by the incantation, leaving the high street a scarlet river. So basically the resolution to this entire chapter. So Tom is vanquished, leaving Sally without her magic, but with a renewed sense of purpose. Sally and Ian share a moment of connection, realizing the strength of their bond, and the town reflects on the events, emphasizing the importance of remembering the potential for disaster. So on page 325, it says, the red rain had gone to the east and inflicted a little damage here with only a drop or two destroying patches of ivy and ferns. Page 332, already people were forgetting that Tom Lockland had ever been among them, although every May there would be a town gathering to remember this day so that no one would forget how easily everyday life could suddenly have been disrupted. For disaster was always a moment away, in the wind, in a red rain, in the illness that had spread through the village on a beautiful spring day. Could you imagine a town like getting together celebrating the fact that you're an asshole and that like you're gone?
Oh my God. That's rough.
That was it about the Red Rain chapter, and I'll leave you with just a few more mentions in the book's conclusion. So page 335, it says, now that the red rain had passed, stopped as it had begun, by the Book of the Raven, the inn had fallen so quiet that the mice felt free to wander the pantries and the hallways. Page 339, this is another mention of ferns in reference to rain, when Franny was copying everything over into the new grimoire. It says, apple for love, holly for dreams, ferns to call for rain, feverfew to ward off colds. So more ferns in reference to rain. So page 342. By now the sky was a vivid blue. All the same, Franny was glad she'd taken a raincoat from the rack in the hall. It was Gideon's old coat that she'd grabbed, left on a peg to dry out, huge and ill-fitting on Franny's form. In the quiet of the morning, she could hear Gideon's heartbeat. He would be the last victim of the curse and the only one to survive it. Okay, so this is not a rain mention, but I just thought that this was an interesting passage, as it knows that the sky is now blue, and Gideon having been the only surviving victim of this curse. So perhaps that explains that all the rain throughout the series and in magic lessons. It did say that Maria talked about rain, or she made the rain come down while she was like inflicting this curse upon, the rest of generations to come. I just thought it was interesting that like throughout the entire series and all the books, this family was just shrouded in this storm cloud, like in this rain.
Yeah, literally. And water has memory, doesn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
So I just thought it was interesting that now all of a sudden that Gideon is like the last victim of the curse, but the only one to survive it. Now the storm has passed and this family doesn't have to deal with rain anymore. So
technically Vincent survive the curse also?
Wait, but Vincent was an Owens though, so...
But so was his boyfriend.
William dies. William died.
Because he's old.
You don't think it was the curse?
I don't know. Is it the curse or is it death? We don't know.
Right, yeah. Is it just life or is it actually the curse? We'll never know. So there's only one more mention here, and this on page 357. The sky was cloudless and blue, and most people believe that the Owen sisters ensured it would be so. Rain on a wedding day is said to be good luck, but it's also quite messy when the festivities are to be held outside, and no one wants that gorgeous tipsy cake to dissolve into a pool of melting chocolate.
That's right.
Let's talk a little bit about my wedding a little later on. I included
right.
Some really cool pictures because it did rain on my wedding day. It poured buckets on my wedding day. That's it for the books, right? But now let's go to the film, because I kind of wanted to do the books before we talk about the film, only because now that we're going to talk about the films, things will make a little more sense now that we know what we know about the books. Okay. The first scene that we see of rain in the film, or the alluding to the rain, is the scene in Michael's death scene, right? So the ground is visibly wet when Michael's walking across the street with his like carton of apples or whatever. So it's clearly a fresh rainfall. And if this means anything close to what it means in the book, we can assume that it implies impending doom. Also, he sees a black dog just like Jesse did right before the red rain fiasco in Book of Magic. I don't know if the black dog has anything to do with rain, or if it's just another omen for impending doom.
I think just another omen. Yeah.
The two may be synonymous with each other. I don't know. Just thought it was an interesting connection. Also, I want to note that in the books, Michael dies on what Alice refers to as a spring day. She doesn't mention that it was a rainy day, but if it took place in the springtime, that the probability could have definitely been pretty high that in the books, Michael also dies on a rainy day, just like he does in the movie. The next scene that we see rain in the film, or we don't see it, but it's the scene where Sally gets home from work and Kylie and Antonia are in the kitchen making cupcakes with the aunts, and Sally asks the girls to go check on all the windows because there is a storm coming. So in this scene, we don't actually see any rain, but it's just the mention of the storm that is coming. In the next scene, we see Sally writing the letter to Jillian. She says the ring around the moon, sign of trouble not far behind. And as she's bringing the letter to the mailbox, the wind visibly starts picking up, alluding to the storm that is on its way that she was talking about in the previous scene. So the next time we actually see the rain is when Sally arrives at the motel and gets out of the taxi, bangs on the concierge window, and when it cuts to the next scene where she gets into the Jillian's room, we see Jillian has been crying. Her eyeliner is all smudged, so her tears, to me, are synonymous with the storm that is prevalent here, which is kind of a metaphor for her emotional state in this scene, because water, as we know, is the element associated with the emotions. So that's just another connection that I was making. Then Jimmy, when he kidnaps the girls and makes Sally drive the car, as she's driving on the highway, there are some exterior shots of the car on the highway, and you can see the road is very slick, very wet. Also, from the interior shots of the car, you can see the rain, sputtered, foggy windows, so it's clearly a very rainy night. Also, what I thought was pretty interesting is when Sally puts the belladonna into the tequila bottle, you know how it swirls around like a little tornado? It's kind of like a sneaky little foreshadowing, alluding to the shitstorm that's about to ensue in the following scenes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, oh shit, what's that tornado? What does that mean? It's more impending doom, right? The entire car ride, even after Jimmy passes out from drinking the tequila with too much belladonna, the windows are rainy from inside the car. So it's very clear that they have been driving through the storm the entire ride back to Magnolia Street on Maria's Island in Massachusetts. They're pretty much bringing the storm back with them to Maria's Island. And I forget what episode it was that we talked about this in the whole ferry situation. Remember? You talked about that?
Yeah. Was that the Martha's Vineyard episode?
I don't remember what episode that was.
It might have been Maria's Island 42, episode 42, perhaps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, so they're literally bringing the storm back with them. So when they pull up to the house and are dragging Jimmy's body up to the property, it's not raining yet, but you can see the wind picking up in the trees in the exterior shot of the house. So that storm's coming. So all of the shots from this point following scene, this is the whole resurrection spell, and these are all interior shots, so we don't really see any rain happening. However, at the point in the spell when they go to stick the pins in Jimmy's eyes, we hear the loud clap of thunder and also the lightning flashes coming from the window on Sally's side of the screen. So we can pretty much surmise that the storm that Sally had been talking about before she had even left to go save Jillian in the motel is finally here. I really hope Kylie and Antonia shut all those windows like she asked, right?
And that Magick is probably amping up that energy too, that the weather witches that they are.
Exactly. And that lightning and it's just charging it all, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So when Jimmy opens his eyes, you can hear thunder rumbling and see the lightning flashing through the entire climax of that scene. And when he starts strangling Jillian and Sally double deads him with the frying pan. So it's very clear that the storm is in fact happening at this point. So the storm is in full force, right? So when Jimmy gets whacked on the head by Sally with the frying pan and he goes lights out, the very next shot that opens back up is his hand with his skull ring on it, and he's lying in the grass in a very heavy torrential downpour while Sally and Jillian dig his grave under the rose arbor in the garden. They roll his body into the grave, they stomp on the slushy, wet, muddy grass with their bare feet like Alice, talked about in the books. Jillian thanks Sally for being her sister. Sally says, let's just put this all behind us. They vowed to tell the aunts nothing and then go inside with their shovels raised, but we hear scratching on the pavement. Check out our Goose and Trivia episode. By the time they are done burying him and go back into the house, the rain has stopped. Isn't it weird how the rain, the shitstorm has passed and now it's a calm?
I have a story about that later.
Eerie calm? Okay. So yeah, I think we also talked a little bit about this in our Jillian character analysis episode when we were comparing Jillian to the actual shitstorm that comes to Magnolia Street during the murder.
There's a storm coming. Oh, God.
Exactly. And that storm is actually Jillian,
Yes.
right? So Jillian might very well be the storm that Sally was alluding to when she told the girls to close the windows in the earlier scene before she even gets the phone call from Jillian. And then lastly, Jimmy's burial scene. It's the last time we actually see any physical rain in the film, but there is that one scene where Sally is walking back to the house from Gary's B&B and the sky kind of looks overcast and the wind starts picking up again, like it's like gonna start storming, but it never actually does. And then I didn't write this down, but I just realized that also the scene at night when Jillian peeps out of the side door and
It
she's
looks like a
"Jimmy,
storm's rolling in.
yeah, she's like, Jimmy, go away. And like glass is crashing and the wind is like going crazy, right?
Totally.
And that's the night before Gary comes to breakfast.
Yes.
And the whole frog burps up the ring. So another storm is coming, right?
Absolutely.
So it's like one thing after another. All of these, like the wind, like you could just tell like what's like something's gonna happen just from the wind picking up and alluding to like some kind of shitstorm's coming. You got to be prepared for it.
That is such an East Coast thing also, because like growing up in Pennsylvania and I'm sure in New Jersey, like if that wind is coming, you need to prepare for a storm. But on the West Coast, you lived out there for a while, they have the Santa Ana winds that is just constantly blowing. And in my little monkey brain, I'm like, oh shit, like I got to be inside, I got to prepare. But no, it's just this constant turbulence of wind all day. For like a week.
Yeah. That's like when during my little short stint in LA some years ago, I would notice that like the sky would always be overcast out in California, Los Angeles specifically. Like it was always overcast, but it never actually rained.
Nope.
And the sky was always so constipated, and it would just frustrate the shit out of me.
That's so funny.
It would just like leave me like with like precipitation and blue balls because I would be like, just fucking do it already.
Yes.
Just do it.
Exactly.
Right? Because like as an East Coaster, you're so used to like, okay, the sky's getting overcast, the wind's picking up, it's gonna pour any second now, and you just feel that like relief. Right?
Release. Yeah.
Release. Exactly. That release.
That climax of rain. Totally. I totally agree. And they also have the meridian front or whatever they call it, where it's like so gray, May gray and June gloom in the mornings. It's gray till noon. And then everything burns off. But all day you're like, what the fuck do I wear today? Is it going to be like, or is it going to be super fucking hot later?
Yeah. Always like growing up, like remember the Never Ending Story?
Yes.
Like the whole, like the Nothing. Do you remember the Nothing?
Yes, I do.
So every time like it gets like that, the winds pick up and the sky looks like it's ready to fuck some shit up. I'm like, oh my God, it's the Nothing.
That movie is so good.
So depressing, but I fucking love it. We know that was a lot to digest, so we're going to go ahead and take our break now. And when we come back, we're going to get into all the science, the magic, the lore, and even chat a bit more about the green and the red rain. Do these phenomena actually exist? We're going to tell you when we come back. So stay there. We'll be right back. Hey, little witches! The Stinas here. If you've been listening to our podcast for a while, you would know how much we love using the Practical Magic Inner Witch Oracle deck by Grounded by the Moon.
And now we want to share the magic of Grounded by the Moon with you, our listeners. Joseph Benitez Egerton, the creator behind Grounded by the Moon, would like to offer this very special 10% off discount to all who wish to experience the magic of his Practical Magic themed tarot and oracle decks.
But that's not all. He also creates other divination tools like tarot workbooks, deck bags and altar cloths, pendulum kits, oil blends, cleansing sprays, smoke wands, teas, and ritual kits.
And let's not forget about his custom handcrafted all-natural soy candles, where every candle is hand-poured and personally infused and charged under the light of the moon. They even come with a crystal.
And did we mention all of the ingredients in the candles are ethically sourced?
All of Joseph's offerings are just so magical. So go visit groundedbythemoon.com and use the coupon code Magnolia Magic for 10% off your entire order at checkout.
That's MAGNOLIA MAGIC. So get your discount today. Hey, we're the Stinas, and you're listening to Magnolia Street Podcast.
You're just doing such a great job with those book mentions. I was like, I'm just listening today.
I just wanted to beast through them because I knew that there were so many. I just wanted to get through them, you know?
Absolutely.
You could take the science. I don't think there's too much Latin in here, so I think it should be good.
I would be happy to. Let's do our card pull. Or well, we're not doing a pull today. We have the element of water we're gonna pull out, and I think we had this on our Stevie Nicks episode.
The water one?
The water one.
Water.
Water one.
The water one. Okay. You got me feeling emotions. That's the keyword on the card. Emotions.
Okay.
Yeah. It also says flow and heart. So this says, the element of water invites you to follow your emotions. Inspired from the Tarot Suit of Cups, water delivers its message, focusing on your emotions and the natural flow of the universe. With water comes healing and cleansing energy. However, this card can also represent the need to go with the flow and stop being a boulder in the river of your life. Joseph, that was profound.
Beautiful, Joseph.
Beautiful, Joseph. Let the water element flow through the channels of your emotions and embrace it. Open yourself up. Free up your emotions and follow your heart rather than your head. To better connect with water, utilize the power of a cleansing saltwater bath as well as the energy of the card itself. And the mantra on this card is, I flow with the water. Oh, there it is.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and on the card you see like those stormy clouds. It's the nothing.
The nothing.
I have water in my chart. I'm a Cancer moon, so my Sagittarius makes me seem like kind of bitchy, but when you get to know me at the core, like my Cancer moon, like I can get super sentimental over the stupidest shit.
I'm trying to look for this Bruce Lee quote about being like water. All right, Bruce Lee. Be like water, making its way through cracks. Do not be assertive, but adjust to the object, and you shall find a way around and through it. If nothing within you stays rigid, outward things will disclose themselves. Empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless like water. If you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, and it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, and it becomes the teapot. Now, water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend.
Bruce Lee.
Bruce
Coming
Lee,
in.
my guy. Laying down the knowledge.
The knowledge, the
Yeah.
inspiration.
Yeah.
Really
The
cool.
advice. Yeah.
Be-
Take that
be-
and do with what you will.
Be Alex Mack. Do you remember that show?
Oh, yeah. And she like puddles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was trying to explain the premise of Alex Mack to Molly, and she was like, that sounds stupid. And I'm like, what do you? That was my childhood.
Yes.
That was such a good show.
Yes, it was. She had a cool bedroom, too.
Yeah.
We all did.
Her whole vibes. Like, she was such a tomboy. Like, she was cool and she was tough. And, like, I just, like, wanted to be her. And she had the magical powers that I was, like, also wanted. So.
We don't talk about the craft in here, right? Which, it was Nancy, right? Who was the water element. Is that right?
No, it was Rochelle because she was the swimmer.
That's
and
right.
Then on the beach, she was carrying the goldfish.
The fish. Okay. Yeah. I was connecting
Yeah.
like the sharks and Nancy.
But
yeah,
Nancy
you're
did
right.
walk on the water.
Jesus.
And Menel gave her the sharks as the gifts,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
But then at the end, well, yeah, Sarah was air. So remember at the end when she like stirs up all the wind and the trees fall,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they all had a little bit of, I guess, weather witch in them.
Now I'm just thinking about the craft.
I know.
Yeah.
Such a good movie.
All right.
You know, when I was a teenager, well, like 13, when I started getting into that movie, like I had it on all day, every day. That movie was on repeat.
Yeah.
Right? In my
Yeah.
VCR. I just like remember whenever it rained outside, I just had to put that movie on.
Oh.
I just associated that film with rain. I don't know if because like in the beginning of that film, it rains and like
Mm-hmm.
there was like a lot of different rain scenes in that film. It just felt like a very rainy day movie to me. And it just made me feel like in my own magic to put that movie on and feel all the witchy feels when it like rained outside.
Totally. Yeah. And that's funny because it took place in California, right?
Right. Yeah, which was
So
really
funny.
weird 'cause it never
Yeah.
fucking rained. Well, didn't rain, never rained when I was there.
Anytime I see like a little grassy knoll, and this can even be like a median on a highway with like a couple trees, I always think of them sitting in the woods. And there's
Aw.
like a little space out here that, you know, the farmland, but there's this like little circle of trees on this beautiful little tiny little hill. And I'm like, I'm going to do witchcraft up there someday. I haven't. I go up there and sit sometimes, but
I'm gonna do
there's
witchcraft.
two specific, I really hope you come visit me someday, two specific places that have a circle of trees. And I'm
Ooh.
like, this needs to be something special here. And I don't want to do it by myself because it's always better when you share it with somebody.
Right.
But
Yeah. Maybe if
absolutely.
you touch one of those trees in that circle, you'll get transported back to the 1600s and then fall in love with a really hot guy named
And be
Jamie.
burned at the stake. Right away.
I was going to the love story. You went right for the fucking burning at the stake. All right.
They'll see my tattoos and be like, "Watch."
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Or a beauty mark for that matter, right? Like,
I know, my central heterochromia. Bye.
couldn't get away with shit back then. You're a witch. Right.
You got dimples? Demon.
Demon.
All right, let's get into some science. So the green rain, the red rain, what is fact? What is fiction? What historical bits was Alice pulling from? Where do we even start? Let's start with a bit of the science, just so we gain some basic knowledge of this aspect. So what is rain? This article comes from National Geographic, and it says, rain is liquid
Participation.
Rain is liquid precipitation, water falling from the sky. Raindrops fall to earth when clouds become, as you called it, constipated or saturated or filled with water droplets. Millions of water droplets bump into each other as they gather in a cloud.
Do you think they say excuse me to each other?
Excuse me, pardon me, excuse me.
Excuse me, pardon me. So stupid.
Oh, poor Avi.
Oh my god.
He's in for it. So when a small water droplet bumps into a bigger one, it condenses and combines with the larger ones. As this continues to happen, the droplets get heavier and heavier. And kind of like when you watch rain go down a window, as it collects more water droplets, the bigger it gets and the faster it kind of moves around, and it becomes too heavy, and they continue floating around in the cloud, and then it falls to the ground. Human life depends on rain, and rain is the source of fresh water for many cultures where rivers, lakes, and aquifers are not easily accessible. Rain makes modern life possible by providing water for agriculture, industry, hygiene, and electrical energy. Governments, groups, and individuals collect rain for personal and public use. Some states it is illegal to collect rainwater, so just check that.
Why is that though? Like, why?
I don't know. Raindrops condense around microscopic pieces of material called cloud condensation nuclei, CCN. CCN can be particles of dust, salt, smoke, or pollution. That's why they say, like, you know how you like to catch raindrops on your tongue sometimes? I think if you're in a kind of more densely populated place, it's probably not a good idea because it's just all that pollution in the air. Brightly colored cloud condensation nuclei, such as red dust or green algae, red and green there, can cause colored rain. Because CCN are so tiny, however, color is rarely visible. However, maybe if you're an Owens witch, it is more visible.
Maybe, do you think it wasn't visible to like your typical muggle person, but the Owenses can see the color?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think so.
Right.
Yeah. When rain forms around certain types of pollutants, such as sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxide, CCN react with water to make the rain acidic. This is called acid rain. Acid rain is harmful to plants, aquatic animals like fish and frogs, and to the soil. Sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxide can be released into the atmosphere naturally, such as through volcanic eruptions. These pollutants can also be released by human activity, such as burning fossil fuels. Burning fossil fuels can influence rain patterns too. In urban areas where many vehicles are on the road at once, rainfall is more likely during the weekends than during the week. How about that? I have been curious. I'm going to have to tell Aaron this because he's like, why? Every freaking weekend I'm off, it is raining. Yeah. That's why. Yeah. And we're pretty rural here. Like Charlotte's about 45 minutes from here, but still. Could be caused. Cool. This is because during the week, millions of cars release exhaust into the atmosphere, creating billions of CCN in the clouds. By the end of the week, clouds are much more likely to be saturated with moisture and the CCN. Scientists have developed a process called cloud seeding to plant CCN in clouds to cause rain. That's some futuristic shit right there. Cloud seeding would reduce drought, although there's very little evidence yet that this works. Although most people think raindrops look like teardrops, they actually look more like chocolate chip cookie, like the little chocolate chips you put in cookies. Like raw balls of dough dropped on a cookie sheet. The smallest raindrop, up to 1 millimeter in diameter, are actually spherical. At 2 millimeter, raindrops start to flatten because of the air pressure pushing up on them as they fall to earth. This effect is increased at 3 millimeters, and depressions form around the bottom of the drops as the air pushes up on the drop harder. At 4 millimeters, raindrops usually distort into a shape that looks more like a parachute. When they get to be about 4.5 millimeters in diameter, raindrops are so big that they break apart into 2 or more separate drops. Raindrops measure 0.5 millimeters or an average of 0.02 inches in diameter or larger. Drizzle, which is smaller than rain, consists of drops smaller than 0.5 millimeters. We call it spitting down here, like a drizzle is spitting outside.
Yeah.
Yeah. Raindrops often begin as snowflakes, but they melt as they fall through the atmosphere. Snow forms in the same way rain does, but in colder conditions. Rain falls at different rates in different parts of the world. Dry desert regions can get less than a centimeter or 0.4 inches of rain every year, while tropical rainforests receive more than a meter or 3.2 feet. The world record for most rain in a single year was recorded in Cherrapunji, India in 1861, when 2,296 centimeters, which is 905 inches of rain fell.
Holy shit.
That's a lot of rain.
We're crying at like 5 inches of snow. Can you imagine 905 inches of anything?
How many feet is that?
That's nuts.
Let me do this math real quick.
Holy shit.
Divided by 12, 75 feet.
That's like that's like skyscraper height?
That's insane. That's a
How is that even possible?
75 feet?
Where does it all go?
That's like a 7-story building.
That's crazy. So going back to our National Geographic article, here are some fast facts about animal rain, okay? So it may not rain cats and dogs, but sometimes it actually rains tadpoles and tiny fish, and sometimes even small birds, I've heard. This strange meteorological event is probably caused by waterspouts, basically tornadoes that form over water. So waterspouts start out as vortexes or columns of rotating cloud-filled wind. As the vortex descends over an ocean or lake, small aquatic animals may be swept up in the waterspout's funnel. Changes in pressure and wind force the waterspout to change back into a low-lying cloud, emptying precipitation, including any creatures swept up in the waterspout over a nearby landmass. In 1894, newspapers in Bath, England reported a rain of tadpoles. In 2009, a storm brought a rain of minnows down on Ishikawa, Japan. Some other accounts of raining animals comes from globalnews.ca. On August 4th, 1921, frogs rained out of the sky onto 11th Avenue in Calgary, Canada. In December 1857, live lizards rained down on Montreal. Large black ants pelted Winnipeg during a thunderstorm in May 1895, and fish fell during a downpour in Moose Jaw in 1903.
God damn.
So that all sounds very biblical, right?
Mm-hmm.
The raining tadpoles deal. It kind of reminds me of that scene in the movie Magnolia, which I'm pretty sure we've mentioned when we were talking on our Frogs and Toad episode. That whole film was actually based around the Bible passage from Exodus 8:2. The numbers 8 and 2 were scattered throughout the entire film.
Interesting.
They're like in like sneaky places. So what is that passage exactly, right? So Exodus chapter 8 verse 2.
I want your best preacher voice.
Oh God. You gonna put some preacher music behind me?
Yeah, some organ.
Then the Lord said to Moses, "Go to Pharaoh and say to him, 'This is what the Lord says, let my people go so that they may worship me. If you refuse to let them go, I will send a plague of frogs on your whole country. The Nile will teem with frogs. They will come up into your palace and your bedroom and onto your bed, into the houses of your officials and on your people and into your ovens and kneading troughs.
Like where you need bread.
The frogs will come upon you and your people and all your official." He's like really threatening the official, like
You're very
officials,
Puritan
right?
in this. You're not so much Southern. You're very you're bringing it back.
I'm a Yankee. It just comes naturally.
Yeah.
Then the Lord said to Moses, "Tell Aaron," your husband made an
Hey,
appearance,
Aaron's here.
"Stretch out your hand and your staff over the streams and canals and ponds and make frogs come upon the land of Egypt."
Amen.
Amen.
Aaron was Moses' brother, I believe.
Uh-huh.
That's all I know. That was very good.
I do what I can around here. All right. So that was from BibleStudyTools.com. If you guys want to go read more up on that. And there was a whole article on lessons of the plagues, like what the frogs actually meant. So we'll link that in our show notes if you guys want to read all that
read
jazz.
that.
But very interesting, like the whole plague situation. It's always very it's such a creepy like thing to even think about. Like remember some years back when the cicadas, like the ones that like Brew 2. Do you remember when Brew 2 came out?
No.
This happened like probably 10, 12 years ago. It's a certain brood that only emerges from the ground every 17 years. And I remember like that whole summer, I didn't even want to leave my house.
Wow.
Like it was disgusting.
I'm sure it was loud as fuck.
It was. And we went to the movie theater one day, and there's like, there was like a set of woods kind of like, on the side of the movie theater, on the side of the highway. And me and Avi are like walking into the movie theater, and we're getting dive bombed by these fucking things.
Yikes. Oh,
and I was like, I had my purse, I was like swinging my purse at them and like trying to deflect them. It was like just getting into the movie theater was like such a friggin' fiasco.
Yeah. That's crazy. I know Waba has a really good episode about cicadas. I loved it. I think it's a interesting animal to use in your practice. Yeah. So go check. It's not sponsored, but it was a really good episode for sure.
Yeah. I don't mind. I love collecting the skins off the trees. I think their exoskeletons are so fucking badass, and they just look freaking cool. But I don't want them fucking flying at my head.
No. I think one of the last years I lived in California, there was there was a migration of a specific butterfly. It was the most beautiful thing for like a day and a half, just waves and waves of these beautiful white butterflies. And I felt like I was in a goddamn Disney movie.
Oh my God.
It was absolutely lovely. It was just lovely. Nothing compared to cicadas. Fuck that shit.
You're lucky, because like I would have much rather had that than fucking cicadas like coming at me with their like little googly eyes and like, oh my God.
Losers.
Talk about biblical. Yeah,
Commoner.
It was commoner. It was so scary.
Yeah.
But just to reiterate, those real life accounts of raining animals we just told you about is hardly biblical. It's pure science, right? The law of gravity, most specifically, because these unfortunate creatures get sucked up by these tornadoes that develop in thunderstorms and then pass over bodies of water. And because what goes up must come down, eventually these critters fall back to the earth, and sometimes a great distance from their original location. So
it's wild.
Science, but I mean, it would be pretty fucking bizarre to just like look up and see all these friggin' like tadpoles and like lizards and shit falling.
Oh yeah,
out.
no.
Right?
No.
Yeah.
A little more on the colored rain. Let's keep going. Earlier, we mentioned that the world record for the most rain in a single year was recorded in Cherrapunji, India, which brings us back around to the red rain. According to explorersweb.com, red rain, also known as blood rain, looks downright apocalyptic. Rain falls red, forming red puddles and red streams on the ground. Throughout history, philosophers, scientists, and ordinary folk alike have sought to explain the seemingly inexplicable phenomenon. Records.
If you click on that link, you can see pictures of it. It's friggin' bizarre.
Oh, I'm gonna pull it up.
Yeah, click on that.
Ooh.
I've never seen anything like that.
Wow. The only thing I could think is similar, like down here in the South, we have more red clay.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and so when it rains, the red clay is very muddy.
Okay.
Records of red rain date back to the 7th century BC. Classical literature figures like Homer, Plutarch, and Geoffrey of Monmouth refer to it as dreadful omens that human suffering was imminent. When red rain drenched the Roman Senate in 191 BC, Roman historian Livy described the response. Being disturbed by these prodigies, the fathers decreed that the consuls should sacrifice full-grown victims to whatever gods it seemed proper. Okay, little human sacrifice. In the Middle Ages, witnesses saw it was a warning from God, since it reportedly rained red before the Black Plague began in the mid-14th century. In the 17th and 18th centuries, scientists from France and Italy made the first attempts to explain it more rationally. They conducted a variety of theories. animal causes, volcanic ash, and dust dispersal. By this time, historians had recorded a couple of hundred cases of red rain. On July 21st, 2001, residents of the Malabar region in southern India heard a loud explosion and saw a bright flash of light. A torrent of thick red raindrops followed shortly after. It stained eyewitnesses' clothes and eventually evolved into heavy flooding of the villages in larger towns. This went on for 2 months.
Holy shit.
Damn. A similar event occurred in Sri Lanka in 2012 after a series of meteorites entered Earth's atmosphere around the same time as the rain. This suggested a possible connection between red rain and meteorite activity. Some believe that the loud thunderclap and flash of light indicated a meteor event. 2 scientists with Mahatma Gandhi University, Geoffrey Lewis and A. Santosh Kumar, posed a cometary airburst theory. They suggested that the color rain came from fragmentation and atmospheric disintegration of a fragile cometary body that presumably contains a dense collection of red cells. Phew. According to historical reports, around 36% of cases of red rain coincided with meteorite sightings. However, the academic pair's theory fell out of favor because of the inaccurate methodology. Also, it did not explain how the debris could rain down for 2 whole months. Another popular theory proclaimed volcanism as the culprit. The July 2001 case of red rain coincided with volcanic ash from the Mayon volcano in the Philippines. Theoretically, it could have drifted to southern India. Then there's the lichen hypothesis. A study by the Indian government found that the red cells in water measured 10 micrometers and had a pH of 7 and indicated metallic elements like silicone, nickel, titanium, manganese, chromium, and copper. It also contained 43.03% of carbon, 4.43% hydrogen, 1.84% nitrogen, and great amounts of a lichen species called Trentipolia. This species grew significantly during heavy rain, prompting its spores to release into the air. Elements in the spores then reacted with elements in the raindrops to turn reddish-brown. Mystery solved. Sometimes rain can take on other colors like yellow, blue, green, and black rain, which make rare appearances. The reason for these different colors remains unclear. Some speculate that the same lichen can react with other elements in the air to produce different hues. That would be terrifying. Black rain?
Yeah.
Shut up.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Fucking science, man.
Science, man.
Wild. So according to earthobservatory.nasa.gov, red rain still occurs periodically in Europe, though with less dramatic effect. They generally receive no more than a brief mention by news outlets or a meteorologist because we now understand what causes them. Strong storms picking up Saharan dust and lofting it toward Europe, colored rain or snow occurs when dust plumes and storm systems meet, though only when raindrops fall through a dust plume beneath the level of the clouds. Dust storms are common throughout the Sahara Desert. On May 29, 2013, the Ozone Mapping Profiler Suite, OMPS, on the Suomi NPP satellite captured this view of an expansive dust event in Africa and southern Europe. Plumes of dust stretched over Turkey, Greece, Albania, Montenegro, Serbia, and a part of Bosnia-Herzegovina. Aerosol concentrations in the air are represented by a quantity known as the aerosol index, with the highest concentrations in deep red and the lowest in light yellow. The heaviest loads of dust appear to be emanating from near the Bodel Depression in Chad. Dust storms that
Chad.
I'm just picturing like all these like bros with like popped collars that live there, maybe.
Yeah.
Dust storms that reach Europe are fueled by cyclones with marked seasonal cycles. The most intense dust events to affect the eastern Mediterranean region usually occur in spring and early summer. By the end of summer, a low-pressure system often emerges over the Balearic Islands and pushes plumes toward the western Mediterranean. As seen above, if you guys go to the article link that we'll link in the show notes, you can see a picture of it. It says not all the dust kicked up in the Saharan dust storms moves north. About 60% flows west toward the Atlantic, often drifting all the way to South America. Previous research has shown that about half the mineral dust that fertilizes Amazon soil originates in the Bodel Depression. While dust can have severe impacts on air quality close to the source, dust from the Sahara is usually soaring at about 3 kilometers or 2 miles above the surface by the time it reaches Europe, explained NASA atmospheric scientist Colin Sefter. It's up so high that people on the ground aren't really affected, though if they look up, they may notice the sky looks a bit milky or opaque. However, what goes up, again, like we said before with the tadpoles and like the little critters, what goes up must come down. Gravity pulls the dust earthward, and rain and snow accelerates the process. Colored rain occurs when raindrops fall through the dust plumes. Heavier rainstorms usually wash dust away before it's readily apparent, but brief light showers can leave noticeable color across the landscape. Red rains only occur if dust particles contain enough iron oxide. Dusty rains occur throughout Europe, but they are mostly common along the shores of the Mediterranean Sea. Red rains are the rarest, but they still occur regularly. The Arizona researchers have compiled a database with details of more than 500 events that have occurred since 1900. A few weeks before OMPS acquired this data, the Balkan Chronicle reported red rain in Bosnia-Herzegovina. So red rain really happens, but due to science, right?
Yeah.
So what about the green rain? So we're going to talk about the green rain now. So guess what? We're going back to India because India's full of rain, and apparently they've had all of these colorful rain experiences over there. So I found this headline from newscientist.com. So the headline reads, Green rain over India evokes memories of Cold War paranoia. And this article was by Fred Pierce, written on June 22nd, 2002, so quite a while ago. So it says, a nervous India was last week gripped by fears that it was under attack from chemical weapons. For 2 days, green rain fell from the sky on the town of Sangrampur, east of Calcutta, spattering clothes and buildings. Villagers rushed to temples to pray, and warnings spread that the rain could be contaminated with toxins or chemical warfare agents. But to everyone's relief, the cause turned out to be altogether more innocent. The villagers were being bombed by bees, and they were using their excrement. Bee shit, basically.
Stop! Oh my gosh.
Could you imagine thinking the world was ending, and then it's like, oh no, it's just bee shit. It's fine.
Bee shit. I wonder if bee shit is as good as like worm shit for the garden. It has to be. Those little guys are doing so much work.
Yeah. So according to Dawn.com, Ali-colored rain, which began on Friday, has sent droves of villagers to Hindu temples to pray for divine mercy on Sangrampur, some 50 kilometers east of Kolkata in the state of West Bengal. Quote, they think they have incurred the wrath of the Hindu gods and goddesses. They are flocking to temples to pray, said Sutanu Prasad Kar, a local administrative official. But researchers concluded on Tuesday that the rain's color was no more than excretion from bees that had consumed a cocktail of pollen from mangoes, coconuts, parthenium, and grass. So some weird like combination of all of those things, right?
What the fuck?
He said separate tests by his board members and by a research center in Calcutta had come to the same conclusion. Villagers will be told of the scientists' findings and urged not to panic, said Chakraborty, adding that a similar phenomenon was once reported in Cambodia. The colorful rains, which have stained the plants green and yellow, have brought hundreds of curiosity seekers into the village. A few drops of green-colored rain fell on my palms. When I tried to wipe it, the bright color faded, leaving an imprint. I felt no pain or itching after touching the rain, said 35-year-old Utpal Basu. Earlier, researchers suspected the rain's color was caused by pollution, as the village's ponds and rivers are used extensively by brick kiln owners. I couldn't find anything else on green rain, really. Like, I was like searching like daffodil rain. I was searching like, different things about the green rain, but I couldn't really find anything on the green rain the way I found stuff about the red rain. But I did find this article from foxweather.com, and it talked more about the sky in reference to why the sky turns green right before a thunderstorm. So do you want to take this away? I'm going to take a sip of water.
Okay. So why does the sky sometimes turn green during thunderstorms? Because we kind of touched on that a little bit ago with the tornado talk. If thunderstorm cloud tops are cold enough, severe thunderstorms can produce hail that is over 3/4 of an inch in diameter or larger. Scenes of the sky turning colors can be common during large Derecho events, especially over the heartland. According to the agency, a common belief is that ice in storms helps to scatter light, making the cumulonimbus clouds appear as if they are different colors. It is common for thunderstorms to produce hail, but only a few go on to reach severe warning status, with hailstorms that are larger than 3/4 of an inch in diameter. The more hail and rain that is in a storm cloud, the more likely a strong updraft is in play, helping to scatter light and making the sky appear green. There it is. There is no known correlation between a blue-green sky and tornado production. Okay, I'm an idiot. Green skies do not guarantee a tornado will form from the clouds, but the color does likely indicate that the storm is capable of a common sight during supercell or larger hail. Dang, science. That's all the science we have, I believe. Are we going into our magic and lore?
So a derecho, it's a cluster of storms that produces destructive wind gusts and hail for hundreds of miles and has the potential to impact millions of people. So in July 2022, there was a derecho event that moved through the northern plains, and it produced hail, damaging winds, and an eerie shade of green in the sky.
And I guess for those non-North Americans, the heartland is usually considered like the very central of our country, and sometimes it's even called Tornado Alley. They just get some crazy derecho events.
This says there's no known correlation between a blue-green sky and tornado production. Green skies do not guarantee a tornado will form from the clouds, but the color does likely indicate a storm is capable of a common sight during supercells, which is large hail.
Science. I'm so happy that I have the answer to why it typically will rain more on weekends and where the green sky tornado connection possibly comes from. And I did not know that India got so much goddamn rain.
Yeah, well, they have the monsoon season. I don't know I don't know what months that spans, but yeah, they get a lot of rain for a period. Like, you know how like we have hurricane season?
They have monsoon season.
They have monsoon season, and it's just like torrential downpour, buckets upon buckets of water. And that's crazy. They have all that, like, all the color of rain over there. That's wild.
Buckets of Rain, Nico K song. Check it out.
Is it?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, we'll have to add that to our playlist.
I want to start, my story is so short about my magical practice, and I talked about this a long time ago. I think in our sympathetic magic episode, I did a cord cutting.
All right.
And in this, I'll just reiterate, if this is your first time coming on the show, because when you were talking about the increase of a storm, we were talking about the increase of a storm during spell work, this was a perfect example. And I was like giving myself goosebumps with how this all went down.
Yeah.
Initially, when I wanted to do this cord cutting, I had set a jar outside just in case this storm did, because here in the South, we have pockets of rain. If it says it's coming at you, there's a 30% chance you're actually going to get rain. You might see it in your neighbor's yard for all you know, and not in your yard. I put a jar outside, collect some rain. I did my cord cutting. I had the picture of my person. I used 2 candles, let those burn down. And then as I'm doing this spell, the storm is actually hitting our house, and it's increasing and increasing, and the spell was almost like a saying goodbye, like the death of a friendship. And as my emotions are elevated, the storm is just getting stronger and stronger, and I'm like crying. And they're those spell candles. They don't burn down super fast, but they take at least a half hour to go down all the way, or at least to where I link them together with string. So by the end of all of this emotional turmoil, the wind is blowing outside. I have video of this. The wind is blowing, everything's going. I'm crying. When I finally was able to say goodbye, the storm had ended, and I was able to go outside, and my little jar was filled up with that turbulent storm water. And I took that water and this picture of the person, and I put them in a Ziploc bag so that the storm water would represent the chaos and the turmoil. It was almost like giving them back what they gave me. And I froze them in that turbulence in the freezer.
Oh, savage.
Afterward, I did take it out of the freezer, walked it out into the woods, took the like block of ice out of the bag and buried it so it would go back into the earth. And
like Jimmy.
Oh, yeah, Jimmy. I jimmied it.
You jimmied it. Oh my God.
That's my little magical tale.
I hope you don't start seeing boots start coming up through the ground. Nah. No, that's powerful. It was
just weird timing too, that It was not raining by the time I started. Go through. Here comes this massive storm. By the time it was done, it was just like the little tricklets of off the tree branches, and the sun was coming back out. The devil was beating his wife, as they say.
Oh my God! Yeah. So you are a weather witch, it seems.
Yeah, I might be.
Weather witch.
You ever like giving yourself a wind bath when it's super whippy outside? Just stand out in the wind and just.
Only if it's warm wind. I don't like cold wind. It makes my skin crawl. I fucking hate cold wind. I don't like on a spring day and it's like sweatshirt weather.
Yeah.
So you could get gardening done, but if the wind is a little too chilly, I'm like, it's too cold. I can't. Do it. I'm such a puss when it comes to wind.
That's funny.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to go into some magic and lore. So in many magical traditions, weather magic is a popular focus for working. The term weather magic can be used to mean anything from divination to forecasting to actual control of the weather itself. Have you ever tried cloud bursting?
What is that?
I only heard it from this George Clooney movie about like the CIA back in the day when they would use like LSD and like special mind linking tricks. You stare at a cloud and you concentrate on it hard enough until it breaks up.
Oh,
You cloud burst.
No, I've done like the divination though, like trying to see what pictures form in clouds, kind of like tea leaves. Like you do that as a kid,
Try
right?
cloud bursting next time, man.
Cloud bursting. Oh, I guess I'll up the ante with some cloud bursting.
Graduate. You're level 2 now. Level 2 weather witch.
Level 2 weather witch. I love it.
So when you consider that many of today's folk magic customs are rooted in our agricultural past, it makes sense that an ability to foretell or change weather patterns might be considered a valuable skill. That's why we have the farmer's almanac, right?
Mm-hmm.
After all, if your family's livelihood and life depended on the success of your crops, weather magic would be a handy thing to know. If you don't have a set of dowsing rods, you can use a pendulum instead.
Talking really quick about the Farmer's Almanac, I didn't realize how fucking accurate that shit is.
Yeah.
So quick story. So when we were planning our wedding, we hired a florist and she was kind of like trying to figure out, like she was giving us some options, like some stuff for out if we had our ceremony outside as opposed to inside, like what we would change, if, depending on the weather. So she suggested picking up the Farmer's Almanac and looking at our wedding date and seeing what the percentage of chance of rain was. I picked up the Farmer's Almanac because we wanted our ceremony outside, which I'll talk to a little bit later on when we talk about my wedding a little more. It was a 97% chance of rain on our wedding
bet you
date.
were like, that could change.
Yeah. I was like, maybe that's so far in advance. How does it know? No,
Right.
it poured buckets on my wedding day. So yeah. So
pretty funny.
Farmer's Almanac, guys, if you want to pinpoint the weather, use the Farmer's Almanac. It's pretty accurate.
Yeah. I've never tried dowsing. I see it all the time. It looks insane.
Yeah.
Even used for, I know it's usually used to find water, but using dowsing rods in like a spiritual divination, asking yes or no questions to spirit. I've seen fucking Ghost Adventures and some shit.
Right.
But yeah, dowsing is the ability to find a water source in a previously unknown area via divination. In many parts of Europe, professional dowsers were hired to locate new places to dig wells. This was typically done with the use of forked sticks or sometimes a copper rod. I'm thinking of like lightning and copper and like, is that connected to the element? I don't fucking know. I'm not a scientist. I just work here.
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Yeah. The stick was held out in front of the dowser, who walked around until the sticks or the rod began to vibrate. The vibration signaled the presence of water beneath the ground. And this was where villagers would typically dig their new well. During the Middle Ages, this was a popular technique for locating new springs to use as wells. And it later became associated with negative sorcery. By the 17th century, most dowsing had been outlawed because of its connection to the devil.
Of course. Of fucking course. It was only designed to like help fucking humanity survive. Like find me some water because that is like the single most important element the human body needs to exist. And you're going to tell me I'm not allowed to find it? Like collecting rainwater. Like why is the government, why are they outlawing that? Like right?
Anarchy.
What the fuck? There was a really cute dowsing scene in the movie Coraline. Did you ever see that movie?
I haven't.
Where she's like, she has the sticks or whatever, and she's like, magic dowser,
Cute.
show me the well, right?
Yeah, that's cute.
And she, and the whole story revolved around like this like water witch or like the other mother and like how she might have been like a well witch.
Ooh.
The Beldam, they called her. Yeah.
Oh.
Really creepy, but I love that movie, and I just always thought that scene was so cute.
I would love to try dowsing. I think it would be really fun.
Looks pretty badass, but it does look kind of weird. Like if you don't know what somebody's doing, it's like, what the fuck? Like, why would
Just
that?
walking around with some sticks.
Why would that find water? Yeah.
In many rural and agricultural societies, fertility rituals were conducted to ensure a strong and healthy harvest. For instance, the use of the maypole during Beltane season often tied it into the fertility of the fields. In other cases, farmers used divination to determine whether the grain season would be successful. A few kernels of corn placed on a hot iron would pop and jump around. The behavior of the hot kernel indicated whether or not the price of the grain would go up or go down in the fall.
Oh,
that's cute. How often have you heard the phrase, red sky at night, sailors delight. Red sky in the morning, sailors take warning. Mm-hmm. This saying actually originates in the Bible. I did not know that. In the book of Matthew. He answered and said unto them, when it is evening, they say there will be fair weather, for the sky is red. And in the morning there will be foul weather today, for the sky is red and lowering.
Yeah, you totally like take it the southern route, and I'm all Puritan about it. Funny.
While there is a scientific explanation for the accuracy of this expression relating to weather patterns, dust particles in the atmosphere, and how they move across the sky, our ancestors simply knew that if the sky looked angry in the early hours of the day, they were probably in for inclement weather. In the Northern Hemisphere, the celebration of Imbolc, or Candlemas, coincides with Groundhog Day. While the notion of holding a fat rodent up to see if he projects a shadow seems quirky and campy, it's actually something similar to weather predictions done centuries ago in Europe. In England, there's an old folk tradition that if the weather is fine and clear on Candlemas, then cold and stormy weather will reign for the remaining weeks of winter. Scotland's Highlanders had a tradition of pounding the ground with a stick until the serpent emerged. Ooh. The snake's behavior gave them a good idea of how much frost was left in the season. Did you know that if you take like a stick and you notch it and then you put it on the ground and then rub that stick with another stick, it'll go brr, brr, brr. It's said to draw out the worms. What? There's videos of this phenomenon. It's wild, and I'm wondering if this snake thing is kind of connected with that.
I'm gonna have to YouTube that. I've never heard of that. That sounds crazy.
Yeah. Some weather prediction folklore relates to animals. In Appalachia, there's a legend that if the cows are laying down in the fields, it means rain is on the way. Although this may well be something that mountain folk tell outsiders. Most cows seek shelter under trees or in barns when bad weather comes. I've also heard that they'll typically lay down because they want to keep that patch of grass dry and warm for them to eat later.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they like leftovers. They're cool with leftovers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Take out. Okay. However, there are also stories that if a rooster crows in the middle of the night, it is foretelling rain the next day. And that if a dog begins running in circles, poor weather is coming. It is also said that if birds build their nests closer to the ground than usual, a hard winter is on the way. These are so cool.
Yeah.
Many traditions believe we can control weather, according to Jonathan Knowles. So, can you control the weather? The term weather magic is one that is met with a variety of reactions in the pagan community. The very notion that a singular practitioner could generate enough magical power to control such a powerful force as the weather is one that should be met with a degree of skepticism. Weather is created by a complex combination of forces all working in tandem together. And it's unlikely that you're going to bump into someone who has the skill, the focus, and the knowledge to actually control anything as vast as weather patterns. It is not to say that weather control magic is impossible. It certainly could be, and the more people involved in it, the more likely the chances are of it succeeding. It is indeed a complex process and one unlikely to be carried out by an inexperienced and unfocused solo practitioner. However, it is often possible to influence existing weather systems, particularly if you're looking at a short-term need that has to be met. After all, how many of us remember doing some sort of snow day ritual the night before a big test, right?
Yeah.
In hopes that the school would be canceled. While it's unlikely to work in May in Texas, you've got a reasonably good chance of success in, say, February in Illinois. In the book Nebraska Folklore, author Louise Pound describes the efforts of early homesteaders to make it rain in their fields, particularly since they knew the local Native American tribes had rituals that were credited with controlling weather. In the 19th century, large groups of settlers often stopped what they were doing at a designated time so they could embark on a mass prayer for rainfall. There is a legend in Northern Europe of magicians who, were able to harness the wind. The wind was imprisoned in a magical bag with intricate knots and could then be unleashed to cause devastation on one's enemies. Snow days in particular are one of the most popular targets for weather folk magic. Spoons under your pillow, pajamas worn inside out, ice cubes in the toilet bowl, and plastic bags over the socks are just a few legends that school children have used for the years in hopes of finding the white stuff blanketing their neighborhoods. In many magical traditions and modern pagan paths, if one wishes to have good weather for outdoor ritual or special occasion, a petition or offering can be made to the gods for that tradition. If they see fit, they may just grant you a bright sunny day to suit your needs.
As we get closer to summer, this is from marblecrowblog.com. So the author says, as we get closer to summer, my area experiences more and more thunderstorms. Honestly, even though rain gives me terrible headaches, I kind of love it. I've always been very into the energy of loud crashes of thunder and bright flashes of lightning. Now I always set out containers to catch some to save and use later. Which, I mean, how many of us have used our rainwater to charge as moon water, right?
Totally.
Rainwater is said to have special properties depending on the season and conditions. She says, I am also including dew under this category for practical reasons, even though it doesn't come from the sky. As far as dew, specifically the dew gathered on the 1st of May, which is May Day, also Beltane, right, is said to preserve youth and enhance beauty. And it's also associated with the fairies. Like a dewdrop is said to be a portal to the fairy realm, and that's no coincidence that Beltane is the fairy festival, right? Mm-hmm. So dew is a big symbol for that day. According to Lexa Rose, Roseanne? Lexa Roseanne. The
Alexis Rose?
Who's Alexis Rose?
Did you ever watch Schitt's Creek? I'm a little bit tipsy.
I've seen it like a couple.
Okay.
Oh, what's her name? Moira?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen like a few episodes of it. So according to Lexa Roseanne's The Encyclopedia of Magical Ingredients, a Wiccan guide to spellcasting, stormwater is useful for increasing one's personal charisma. Each season's rain helps with a specific aspect here. So spring stormwater is for sensuality and attractiveness to romantic partners. Summer stormwater is for magnetism and raw sex appeal. Autumn stormwater is to make oneself develop an irresistible Rasputin-like appeal. Winter stormwater is for endurance and is said to make one a formidable foe against business or political competitors. And of all of these, winter stormwater is the hardest to come by, while autumn stormwater is said to be the darkest and most dangerous.
I could see you having 4 separate jars, maybe even more, like winter, spring, summer, and fall stormwater.
I would do
all
that.
Lined up.
Yeah. I actually made moon water jar labels for each different moon of the 13 lunar cycles of the year. Yeah, I have one dedicated for each moon cycle of the year. So
I love that.
And I left a little space on the bottom, like I'll put a little line so you can mark it with the date. So I can print them out year after year and it still be good because I could just mark the date in with my own marker.
That's sick.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'll send them to you if you want.
Or visit her Patreon.
Or visit my Patreon, guys. You can do that too. I have a couple things I'll link below or in our show notes as far as like rain magic type stuff, which some cool stuff coming up later on. So this author says, I usually use stormwater to cleanse and charge things, including myself. I'll usually gather the water one day, then on the next clear day, place a closed container of it with crystals, flower essences, etc. in a sunny or moonlit spot. After that, I use it to asperge or mist myself. I even charge some under the Tau Herculids meteor shower. Dip a sprig of rosemary or fresh vervain in stormwater and use it to asperge altars, tools, or sacred spaces before working. This will cleanse and energize them. After about, she says, mumble, years, I haven't noticed any difference in the water's properties based on the intensity of the storm. Weaker storms just produce weaker water. While this may be helpful if you're looking for gentler energy, like for sleep magic, you may be better off just using moonlit charged water to begin with rather than fussing with storm water. Yeah, because that water's holding that energy. Like, you don't want to use storm water while trying to get a good night's sleep, right?
I love, if I'm going to use the sound machine, I'm going to put on a storm with thunder.
Ooh,
in my personal opinion, or like cicada sounds if I'm somewhere that is not like California did not have those nighttime sounds, so I had that on there. But for this specific thing, if you're looking for a good night's sleep, maybe just using moon water is good enough. Like, don't bother trying to get that rainwater, you know?
Yeah, definitely. That totally makes sense. So some practitioners assign elemental properties to rainwater based on the conditions during which it was collected. Lightning storms produce rainwater aligned with the element of fire. Windstorms like hurricanes and tornadoes produce rainwater aligned with air. Rain collected as drips from trees or other tall plants is aligned with the earth. And personally, the author says, I would caution against collecting stormwater during a windstorm. Wind-borne debris cause the majority of damage during these storms, and any container you put out can easily become a dangerous projectile.
Oh, shit.
Ouch. Some also assign astrological properties to stormwater based on the time of its collection. A waxing moon brings increase and a waning moon brings decrease. Every day of the week, even every hour, is ruled by a planet. The moon also passes through the various sign of the zodiac. Storm water collected on a Friday during a Venus hour when the full moon is in Taurus would therefore be a powerful tool for attracting love. You'd also be catching stormwater in November in that case, when Roseanne says it will enhance your Rasputin-like qualities, so maybe bear that in mind too.
A magnet for that puss. Like, he was getting his dick wet. And he was not a good-looking dude, but they say
no, he wasn't.
Those eyes were just like, come hither eyes. They just pulled you in and bewitched you.
Listen, if you have the charisma, you can get anybody to drop the panties, right?
Yeah.
Right. From my own experiences, the author says, and most sources I've read, stormwater shouldn't be kept indefinitely. It's best used within the first month or so after you've collected it. Keeping it in the refrigerator can help slow down the proliferation of algae and other organisms. In my tradition, they say, sacred water is water gathered from 3 natural sources and is used in every formal ritual. I often catch rainwater to serve as one of these and combine it with sea and stream water. A little bit about using rainwater. So please check the laws about gathering rainwater in your area. In some places, it's illegal to do so, like we've mentioned before. And this is to protect the environment a lot of the times. It isn't the mere fact that you're collecting the water, but the amount, which is like, yeah, I never knew why, there was either a ban or restrictions on it, but I guess this is why.
It just doesn't make sense to me, because that little gutter on the end of your greenhouse that funnels into a bucket, that water is just going to go to that little strip of grass right under that gutter. I don't know.
Right.
I don't get it. And it's going to go back into the ground anyway.
Yeah. I don't get it either. So this author says you might be able to get away with a small container or a single rain barrel's worth, but laws against collecting rain exist to stop people who end up diverting that water from places that need it. So I guess it makes sense, if you're in a drought area, I know California gets a lot of droughts. There might be restrictions in California. Sure. I really don't know. To use water from rain or storms, put out a container. You'll probably want a wide bowl or some other vessel that's much wider than it is deep. It'll be easier to catch water that way. When the storm ends, the container's full, or you feel like you have enough water, bring it inside. Run it through a coffee filter or several layers of cheesecloth to clear out any bits of grass, twigs, leaves, mulch, dirt, bugs, or dust that might have been blown into it. Pour the filtered water into a container, preferably one with a lid. And this author says, I don't recommend consuming rainwater at any type without thorough boiling or some other form of treatment. While it's usually clean when it comes out of the clouds, it can collect all kinds of pesticides and other kinds of sides as it drops off of leaves. It can also pick up bacteria, viruses, parasites from the soil, or worse, dog, cat, bird, rodent, or insect feces, or bee feces, which that's the rain turned green because of the bees. Just make sure you boil it if you're going to want to drink it for anything. Yeah. They say, I'm not even going to get into what gets into your water if you have to collect it near a road. Gross.
Right.
Like car exhaust pipes,
oil.
Yeah.
Coolant.
All of that gross
Piss.
stuff. Yeah, you just don't know what you're drinking. So I wouldn't even drink rainwater, honestly.
Mm-mm.
So they say, I won't deny that there's a certain fairy-like cottagecore appeal to sipping fresh rainwater. There are also many reasons why people regularly drop dead before water treatment became a thing.
Right? The thing that 90s kids were so afraid of. Dysentery.
Dysentery.
Yeah.
Well, you thank the Oregon Trail for that, right?
Exactly.
So if you do need to drink stormwater for your purposes, consider setting out a covered bottle or a jar of clean water during the storm rather than collecting the rainwater itself. So much like you can charge water with the sunlight or moonlight, you can charge it with some of the power of thunder and lightning. So a little stormwater placed in a dark, solid colored bowl is wonderful for scrying. You can also use stormwater as a base for door washes, floor washes, or ritual baths, and steep some herbs in it or infuse it with crystals. And this person says, I like to use sunlight and a special glass jar for this, and then pour it into your bath or wash water. So there you go. Have you ever made sun tea?
Yeah, Aaron drinks a lot of sun tea.
Yeah.
I'm a sweet tea kind of person.
But like, does he actually like brew the tea and like let it sit in the sun and let it brew that way?
Yeah. Well, in
Yeah?
California he did because we had way more sunny days.
Oh, right.
Yeah, he'd
right,
put like 8 or 9, 10,
yeah.
8 or 9, 10 tea bags in a jug and just let it sit
Oh.
outside.
I think my mom has made it from time to time. I'm like, I don't have the patience to let it like steep there all day under a window.
Yeah. If I'm gonna pick a summer drink, it's not sun tea. It's gonna be like lemonade
Ooh, lemonade.
or a sweet tea or a
Yeah.
mimosa.
Yeah,
Ooh.
I like a good sweet drink too.
Yeah. There's little doubt that rain is essential to life. Without it, life would not exist on planet Earth. In times of drought, not only do we suffer economically and ecologically, but we also suffer emotionally and spiritually. Since our bodies are comprised of a high percentage of water, we naturally relate to the humidity and the water around us. Many people, even those who do not swim, are drawn to water and enjoy standing in the ocean or in a river just to participate in the kinship that exists between humans and water. Like the Owens women, right?
Mm-hmm.
The human spirit responds well to percussion and the rhythmic sounds of rainfall and thunder, which tends to awaken a primal energy within us. The element of water is associated with emotion, so it evokes a number of different emotional responses in us when it falls all around our houses and our bodies. Water relates strongly to intuition, instincts, and psychic sensitivity. In moderate amounts, rain soothes and gently cleanses, renewing the land and our spirits within. In greater quantity, it carries away all that is weak and extraneous and soaks into the earth to fortify and renew the life it sustains. The energy of rain is effective for second chances and clearing away the old, extraneous debris from our life. So if you're thinking of working with rain energy, to cleanse a magical working tool, provided, of course, that is water resistant, place it outside in natural rainfall for a while. Visualize that this gift is from the heavens and it's washing away any energies you do not wish to have present in that tool. When it is raining outside, do not overuse your left brain. If you can avoid such activity, it is sometimes a struggle to focus on analytic and academic matters when surrounded by water, which contains the full essence of your right brain experiences. If your schedule allows for it, use rainy days for divination and oracle reading, for daydreaming and napping. Oh, that sounds so nice. To induce lucid dreaming. Write in your journal. Pursue creative tasks that do not involve heavy thinking and strategizing. Run into the rain, arms outstretched, and imagine the drops are blessings raining down upon you. As you feel the plants and the trees coming back to life again, feel the life soaking into you as you are reborn. Let the rain slide down your clothing and your body, carrying away with it what no longer serves you, sluicing it neatly away to the ground into Mother Earth. When I was probably like 13, we had a super rainy day and we did not want to be stuck inside, my friend and I. So we put on our grubbiest clothes and just went outside. We would run through the yard and just like baseball slide through puddles and mud and stuff. It was so fun. It was so fun. I recommend it. Weather is attuned to the West, the homeland of endings and successful completion. The West leads to a place between the worlds where we slip through the veil that separates us from other dimensions. Like the dreamy, disconnected mental state we enter when we align with the power of the rain. The West shifts our perception and takes us into our higher selves. Rainy days are wonderful for astral travel, shamanic work, and meditation.
That sounds lovely.
Bring the thunder. Tell me about thunder magic.
Thunder. So, amping up with thunderstorms. It's easy to see the male or female energies of meteorological events when we consider the elements they represent. Water and earth are assigned female attributes in nature, and fire and air are male. This means that wind, lightning, thunder, and high sun are masculine, while rain, snow, and hail are feminine. Not only does a thunderstorm perfectly blend all four elemental energies, but it also perfectly combines and balances male-female energies. A thunderstorm is the blank check of weather magic that we can use for nearly any magical work, cranked up to high amperage. If the storm comes up unexpectedly, the magic is even stronger. A freak thunderstorm calls your attention to an important work, and everything else should take a back seat for at least a few minutes while we honor the magic. It's kind of like the Tower tarot card, right? Isn't there like a lightning bolt hitting the tower?
There is.
The tower?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So like a sudden plot twist, right? Change plans.
Mic drop.
So, working with thunderstorm energy, if you're comfortable going out into the storm and can do so safely, direct exposure will bring your strongest magical results. Otherwise, position yourself so that you feel as much of the storm as possible. Open doors and windows, turn off the lights, eliminate distractions in the area such as computers, TVs, radios, etc.
I think that's also a safety measure. Like if you're
yeah.
having lightning and thunder, like start unplugging shit.
Yeah. Did your mom ever tell you not to take a shower during a thunderstorm? Yeah. And I'm like, what?
Because
but I guess
a conduit through the water.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And the safest place to be in a thunderstorm is your car, right? Because it's grounded by the rubber.
Interesting.
Yeah. The rubber tires are grounding. So
that is good to know. When we first moved into this house, I don't know why it hasn't happened since, but the first probably like half a dozen thunderstorms, there was an outlet in our kitchen that would just pop.
Oh my God.
Like,
Jesus.
It was scary. But I don't know. It fixed itself.
Yeah. I do want to rephrase what I just said though.
What?
The safest place to be in a thunder lightning storm is your car, but not if you are driving under a lot of power lines and trees.
That makes sense.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. There was a girl recently, like a few years ago. We had a big storm in Jersey, and I guess a power line fell. I don't know if she went to like get out of her car or whatever. She got electrocuted and
don't do that.
Died. She died.
Yikes. That's so sad.
Okay, as the storm approaches, send your mind out and find the heart of it. See it swirling and moving, alive with the power and pulsing with energy. Reach into the heart of the storm and begin pulling it close to you. The more you become one with the energy of the storm, the easier it becomes. Create a symbiotic exchange with the storm wherein you give your energy into it and it pours its essence into you. Close your eyes and let the storm flow through you. Become one with the wind, like Nancy, right? And like she was like the lightning rod in that scene on the beach, right?
Yeah, literally got struck by lightning,
and then she got charged by Manal, and then she just went off the fucking deep end. So yeah, wide open spaces, like beaches and fields, you know.
That was perfect.
I saw an opportunity. I took it. Become one with the wind. Let the rain wash over you. Let the thunder blend with your heartbeat. Breathe very deeply and regularly, taking in the sense of the storm and the humidity and ozone that it brings. Feel your skin begin to tingle as the energy flows through you and around you. Direct the energy of the storm toward the prominent magical goal in your life. Feel the energy of the storm move around that goal. Externalize your goal and give it to the storm. And feel the release as it leaves you and goes into the heart of the storm. Let the storm work on it, infusing it with change and resolution. And see the goal begin to glow and move as it is alive. See it contort and change as the storm works on it. And if you start walking on water and beached whales start popping up, then maybe it worked. I don't know.
Show on the road.
Exactly. These are my gifts. When the storm begins its retreat and the intensity diminishes, release your connection of the heart of the storm and to the goal that you gave over to it. Slowly pull your energy back in and allow the goal to move away from you, knowing that it will come back resolved and perfected. Most importantly, do not revisit the goal for at least one full moon cycle, which is about 28 days. Let it go and let the storm do its work. When we were kids, like all the neighborhood kids, we had a lot of kids on our street growing up, and our little gang of neighborhood kids we made this game called the Weather Rangers.
What?
And we were obsessed with like Power Rangers and like all that stuff.
Yeah.
So we each had like our own elements, and like we each control like a different.
What was your element?
I don't even remember. I don't remember. It was so long ago, but like I just remember the Weather Rangers. That's
cute.
Flashback.
You had like between Raptor Rapture, the Stevie Nicks sing song with your brother, and this, you guys are cool. I would have hung out with you.
A lot of kids on our street. Like it was always something. It was always some kind of adventure. Yeah. So let's talk about some flower rain magic. So a few years back, I actually did some vlogs on my YouTube channel about planting pansies, which are actually considered the flower of rain magic. So according to Scott Cunningham's Encyclopedia of Magic Herbs, they are feminine, they're ruled by the planets Pluto, Saturn, and Venus, and the element of water, obviously, and the deities Eros and Cupid. And pansies are a great flower to plant in the spring because they don't fancy the heat, right? They don't do really well in the heat. So you can plant them in your spring garden with the intentions to ensure a rainy summer, alleviating your garden from excessive heat and drought. So just ensuring that your garden is constantly getting that rainwater all during the, I guess, the growing period of all your plants and vegetables in my vlog. I also made some Rain Magic shortbread cookies, and I used the pansies and powdered sugar as my cookie toppers because pansies are in fact an edible flower and so pretty to use in any sort of baking. You can also eat the cookie as like a little garden blessing intention, like taking like the rain into
your body.
Yeah.
Cool.
So folklore says picking a pansy on a sunny day will cause it to rain. Picking a pansy at dawn, then sprinkling water on it will also bring the rain. And I will link my blog in our show notes for anybody who wants to try making these cookies. They're really yummy and delicious, and they were a lot of fun to make, and they're really pretty to look at. Like, they're so pretty to even like want to eat.
What kind of drink would you suggest having with them?
They'd probably pair really well with like a nice lemonade or any kind of like sparkling water that has like a little essence of like citrus to it. It's really nice.
Cool.
Yeah. Very refreshing. So here are some cute little rain proverbs, and these were compiled by Lynn Hitchcock on news24.com. And it says, evening red and morning gray will set the traveler on his way, but evening gray and morning red will bring down rain upon his head. So the next one says, no dew on the grass at night is a sign of rain. Clouds on the hilltops, if falling, promise rain. If rising, clear weather. A pale rising moon portends rain the next day. Look for rain when the crow flies low.
I see. Oh no, it's not pale moon rising. It's bad moon rising.
Oh, it's bad. Yeah, bad moon rising. Yeah.
It fits.
Yeah, it works. It is said that flies bite more when it is going to rain. I've never heard of that one. When chairs squeak, of rain they speak. Catchy drawer and sticky door, coming rain will pour and pour.
Mm-hmm.
Spiders leave their webs when it's going to rain. A ring around the sun or moon means rain or snow coming. So maybe in that scene when Sally saw the ring around the moon,
the storm impending.
That was that storm coming. Yeah. Not just like the impending doom, but like that, I guess, like the literal storm. So if ants move their eggs and climb, rain is coming anytime.
Who's watching that?
Right? Yeah. When the ditch and pond offend the nose, then look out for rain and stormy blows. When clouds look like black smoke, a wise man will put on his cloak. If salt is sticky and gains in weight, it will rain before too late. And this one was what we were talking about before. Red sky at night, sailors delight. Red sky in the morning, sailors take warning. When clouds appear like rocks and towers, earthens refreshed by frequent showers. Flowers are more fragrant before the rain. The aching of a broken bone predicts the rain. And that's where you were talking about that rheumatism, right? Like when you break a bone, your bones can just tell that it's rain.
The inflammation.
Right. When the cows are laying on the ground, the rain shall soon be coming down. And that is by S.E. Schlosser. And we talked about that one before. And according to Alanis, it's like rain on your wedding day. It's a free ride when you've already paid. You could finish it. You want to finish it?
Some good advice that you just didn't take. And who would have thought it figures?
Yeah. So yeah, like we were talking about before, it did in fact rain on my wedding day, as Alanis predicted, and the Farmer's Almanac. Not only did it rain, it actually poured buckets onto the earth that day. We were supposed to get married outside under a beautiful old oak tree. And at first I was disappointed, but afterward, all of our guests were telling us how the rain just added to the spookiness and the ambiance of the night, since it was in fact a Halloween wedding in an old Gothic 1930s mansion. And I actually included some photos for you to see, Kristina, here.
It's so beautiful. The first one is showing, the second one is not coming up.
Yeah, and look, in the third one down, you can literally see the raindrops speckled all around us. I actually was kind of annoyed that they pulled us away to take that photo. I mean, I love the photo to death, but we were like having so much fun in our like reception, and we got yanked away from our friends to fucking do this shit.
But they knew that lighting was just going to be so cool.
Yeah, it was bananas. We wanted to do an exiting photo of like us leaving the mansion, and we actually asked all of our family and friends to bring jack-o'-lanterns so we can get an end of the night photo, but we couldn't do it because all the pumpkins by the end of the night, it was soggy, everything was wet, it wasn't even possible to do. So some of our family brought pumpkins up from North Carolina, and we couldn't even get that shot. It was so disappointing in some ways. I mean, in some ways the rain ended up being really cool, but then also in other ways, like we didn't get to do some of the things we had planned for. You know?
Still memorable.
But it's still
beautiful.
memorable.
You guys got such cool pictures.
Yeah. Even though like the sky is so ominous and overcast, like it was so moody. It was just such a vibe that day. And it was just
You're
like
a gothic ass bitch.
and I have to say, that night, the energy that was in that mansion, it was electrifying. Like the next day we went back to like I guess drop off the check to the whoever, you know, yeah. We went to drop off our check and everything was sterile and cold, and you would have never known that the night before there was so much spirit in that
rager of party.
Yeah, it was crazy. Like how much energy just like filled the walls of that place like that night.
That's
and
awesome.
I don't know, it was like we had really great people helping us out, like decorate. We did the whole thing was DIY. Most of it. So like my friends, like they decorated the whole place and they did a great job. Like it was amazing. They made it look amazing, and just like everything was just never forget it. I will post these pictures for if anybody wants to see it to our Patreon, if you guys want to see the rain in some of these photos.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were the star of the show that day.
Yeah. The first wedding, there was no rain. The second wedding, it rained the night before, and we just went to the courthouse. We were like, oh, we hope we can have it outside. And we were able to, because it was like nice sunny November 1st day. First wedding had tons of photos, you know, like more than fucking needed. Second wedding, I think I have 25 photos. Yeah. And they're perfect.
Yeah.
I love them.
You don't need a whole lot, right? It's just you and the person you love, and that's what makes it memorable.
And the person I love was so hungover when we got to the not courthouse. It was like whatever. He had told me afterward that he was like, I was getting up to go throw up in the bathroom.
Oh no.
And then they called our name.
Oh no.
Go get our service done. And I was like, you son of a bitch.
Wait, is this Aaron?
Yeah, and he was just trying to hold it together.
Asshole.
He's gripping onto my hands, staring into my soul. Oh and I'm thinking, this is such a touching moment of our tantric eye contact. No, he was trying to not
throw up.
Over. Yeah.
Wait, so this was the ceremony that it rained? This one rained?
The night before it did rain.
The night before it rained. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's a good sign, right? It says, rain on your wedding day is good luck. Right. Maybe that's why that first marriage didn't work out, because it didn't rain.
I didn't have any rain.
There you go. That's why. I guess we're going to end this episode finally with some dreams. So
I did have Bersedia, but I didn't open her up yet.
All right.
Is there anything else about your rainy wedding that is memorable while I look for this?
Well, everything was so memorable. Everything down to our ceremony was pretty much like a custom ceremony. We kind of gave our officiant like ideas that we wanted to do, and she just like took it and just ran with it, and it was beautiful. She came up with this whole spiderweb ceremony. So like we had like this twine, right? And the whole, our whole audience, our witnesses, they would take an end of the twine and they would wrap it around their finger, and then they would give the spool to the next person. And then it's so on and pass it down. So by the end of everybody, wrapping the twine around their finger, they were instructed to then put their hands up that had the twine, and they were all connected around the room. So it looked like one big spider web going over the whole audience. And it was basically like our support net, or, we're all connected. Yeah, that was really beautiful, and we got so many comments or compliments on that portion of the ceremony because it was so unique. It's never been done before. Nobody ever seen it. And she created that just for us, and that was the one thing about her. Her name was Jill Magerman. That was the one thing about her. When I saw her at we saw her at a wedding convention at our venue. No, Pennsylvania, Doylestown, PA. We saw her at the wedding convention, and when I saw her give this presentation, like, all of these, like, I guess, people trying to sell their services, right? She was on the stage and she was giving her presentation, and she was explaining how she, customizes most of her services for people. And the one she was talking about was an ice cream sundae ceremony. Like, the couple she was marrying, they met, their first date was in an ice cream shop. So she created this like ritual for them where they like would build a sundae at the altar at their wedding. They would build this ice cream sundae. Each layer represents a foundation of their relationship. And like, I was like, take my money.
I'm in.
Take my money.
Take my money.
So she did. She took my money, and then she wrote that beautiful spiderweb ceremony. And I was like,
that is so cool.
Right?
All right, here we go. We got
All right.
Brasilia Ryan. She has probably like a page and about a page of rain-oriented things.
Wow.
I'm not going to read all of them. So she has rain, but then she's got raindrop, raincoat, rainfall, rain gauge, rainforest, rain check, rainproof, rainstorm. This says, simplify your life and trust your instincts, especially for the next 3 days. You will want to reach out to someone you desire to be closer to. You will find that you are loved very deeply by this individual. Blessings will come to you and your family. Again, this is Brasilia Ryan, the Ultimate Dictionary of Dream Language. So if you want the rest, this is the book to get. If you need that, if you need to know, if you have a Virgo placement and you need to put that shit on your calendar,
Yeah.
she's the one to consult.
Right. Yeah, because she always goes by the amount of days, and it's always like 3 days, 4 days, done
Yeah.
deal. Right.
Done.
On to the next one. So this bit of dreams is from dreams.co.uk, and it says, dreaming of a rain over a house. If you watch rain falling directly onto your house in a dream, it's said to mean you'll receive a blessing. But if the rain was falling over your whole town in the dream, this is even better, as it means blessings for everyone. Unless that is, in fact, you are Tom Lockland and you are making the rain red and deathly.
Just being a Tom Petty.
Being a Tom Petty. Not being a Tom Lockland, being a Tom
No.
Petty. Right.
Yeah.
Petty spaghetti. Whenever you dream about water leaking into your house because of rain, or your home becoming flooded, this is said to be a sign that you'll need to spend some money for an unexpected reason in the future. According to Auntie Flo, the author of this, dreaming about water entering your house and flooding your possessions represents the emotions. The water in your home is symbolic of your creative energy and its effects on the world. This dream also signposts that you're set to have a passionate love. According to Psychologist World, dreaming that your house is leaking during rain predicts illicit pleasure will come to you out of the blue.
Oh my.
My. Dreaming about rain on your window. Watching the rain pouring onto the ground outside your window in a dream could be a sign that spiritual ideas and insights are coming into your awareness. Additionally, it can also symbolize fortune and love. If you're watching raindrops slowly trickling down your window pane from the inside of your room, get ready for good news. True love or good fortune could be heading your way. Do you remember as a kid, like when your like parents are driving you and you're like sitting in the back seat and it's raining and you're like staring out the window like you're in a music video and like it's like
for sure.
Yeah. You're just like staring at the raindrops.
Playing Avril or some shit.
Yeah. Something super emo.
The damn cold night.
That's
that
right.
one.
Yeah. That whole music video was like all rain, right?
Yeah.
Somewhere new. Don't know who you are.
Oh, but I'm letting go. Do you think she's still alive?
Oh, you mean like the conspiracy theory, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I think she's still alive. I think people go through changes and they're nitpicking an angsty teen and her development into an adult.
Right. Yeah, I mean, she still is that person, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's still got that grit to her. She's still making like badass music. So
She's still relevant.
She's changed, but I mean, yeah, she grew up. So like, you know, like
give the girl a break.
Conspiracy theories are so fucking stupid, but I mean, we all fucking believe them to a little
degree,
right? Yeah, I'm not gonna not read about them.
Don't tempt me with a good time.
Don't tempt me.
All right,
a good conspiracy theory. So if you're unhappy with your daily routine or disappointed about something going on in your life, prepare yourself to experience real happiness. And according to Regular Dream, a rainstorm dream may hold the solution to your most significant problems, as rain washes away the dust from the air and blesses the dry land with its moisture. So if you've been suffering deep pain recently, take comfort that happiness is not so far away. And lastly, dreaming about rain with lightning and thunder. Did you hear the roar of thunder and lightning crackling during a rainstorm in your dream? If so, you're in for some serious enlightenment, as you may be set to discover something shocking, pleasant, or even both. If there was both sun and rain in your dream, this could mean that you are going to taste some success in the near future. If you dreamt about rain but can't recollect the details, it mostly means that you have an optimistic approach towards life. You can make good use of this positivity and start improving yourself. Rain in your dream might also indicate there's an important issue you need to communicate with people. You may also feel overwhelmed about something. As a result, it could be time to get more in touch with your feelings and emotions. If you have a tension in your current relationship and your love life, or you have problems at work, this could be at the root of why you had this dream. So yeah, so we'll link that if you guys want to read more about all those.
The lightning one that you read about something shocking happening, that's so tower energy, what you said before about being connected with the tower card. Just
definitely
shit up. Your reality is about to change.
Plot twist.
Plot twist, baby. Yeah. I think that's all we have for rain. We're gonna try to put some of these into a springtime playlist. Check that out. But if you want to help support our podcast, here's how you can do that.
You can support us for as little as $1 a month. That's our seedling tier, and that gets you access to our patron-only polls where you get to weigh in on what topics you would like us to talk about next. It also gets you our monthly calendar so you can see what topics we have coming up for the month, and it also gets you a welcome shout out on the show. Our $3 Lavender Bud tier gets you our show notes for each episode in an aesthetically pleasing PDF, our after hours posts, if there's any extra tidbits or behind the scenes info pertaining to any of our episodes, we'll post those along with the blog post or extra photos, and access to our specially curated Spotify playlists. We have created playlists for our WMSR episodes as well as Production Dream playlists for each song episode, and more. Our $5 Lilac tier gets you access to our private Facebook community where we host a monthly live stream. Plus, you'll get access to our Discord server where we host our monthly watch parties. And also on the Discord, you can join in on the discussion with other Magnolia Street neighbors via the various interesting channels and threads. And then here's the $8 Rose tier. This gets you access to extra audio-visual content such as a once a month full-length video episode, unlimited bonus videos, uncut footage, cutting room floor footage, bloopers, outtakes, meditations, exclusive interviews, and old home videos from the vault, or spell or ritual videos, and more. It also gets you bonus content to coincide with our song-episodes, such as full-length demo streams of our original Practical Magic inspired music, plus lyric sheets, guitar chords, and original scratch demos, or bonus video performances of our songs and more. Lastly, we have our $15 Wisteria Vine tier. Just like a twisting Wisteria Vine, there's a way for you to stay connected with us, the Stinas. In this tier, we invite you to join our private Marco Polo video messaging app. The app is totally free for both Android and iOS. Sign up with your phone number or email, and we will help you do the rest. This is a great way to chat with each other in a more intimate group setting, face-to-face via video recording. We love to show each other our pets, our gardens, or anything else you'd like to share. And just a reminder that the higher the tier you sign up under, the more rewards you get, because you get all of the rewards of the tiers below it. You can upgrade or downgrade or even cancel at any time. So to support the podcast, head to patreon.com/Magnolia Street Podcast.
Yeah, and there are additional ways to support us and our podcast that don't cost you any money. If you do listen on Spotify, please give us a star rating. If you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, please give us a written review. We love sharing those on our Instagram. And if you're on Instagram, we would really appreciate any reposts or blurbs about our podcast. And make sure to tag us at Magnolia Street Podcast in your feed, posts, stories, and share us with your Practical Magic loving friends. We have our merch over on Teespring. You can see that link in our link tree over on our Instagram. It used to be Koji. It is now Linktree. And by the time this comes out, we'll have gone and come back from our Boston trip. So keep an eye out. We might have a bonus episode for the patrons about that.
I think that's all for now. Thank you guys so much. If you made it this far, if you made it to the end of this episode, we applaud you. That was a lot of information thrown at you, but
I love it.
I just I don't know why, reading all of those books back to back, which is what I did, seeing all of the rain symbolism, I was like, why?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But now knowing what we know about Maria's story, it kind of started with her.
It did.
So just carried on down the lineage.
A trailblazer.
Very cool.
Trendsetter.
Yeah. Thank you guys for listening. If you guys want to write into the podcast, magnoliastreetpodcast@gmail.com. Go follow us on Instagram at Magnolia Street Podcast. And that's all we have for today. I'm Justina.
I'm Kristina. We'll see you next time.
At the house on Magnolia Street, would you